Hey guys, tonight we slip into the moonlit streets of ancient Athens, where shadows dance on marble, and a certain owl with a goddess's blessing keeps watch. Picture yourself standing on a dusty hill, the Acropolis looming like a stone giant, its columns glowing faintly under starlight. The air smells of olive oil and warm bread from a nearby tavern, but there's a prickle on your neck, like something's watching. Spoiler, it's not just the drunk stumbling home. Athena's owl, all piercing eyes and silent wings, is out there, and you probably won't survive this night without feeling its gaze. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're chilling tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're in Athens circa 400 BCE, and the city's alive even at this hour. Torches flicker along the agora, casting jittery shadows on merchant stalls, now shuttered for the night. You hear laughter, a liar's faint pluck, and the clink of wine cups from a symposium down the street. But above it all, there's a rustle like a whisper of feathers. You glance up, and there it is, Athena's owl perched on a cracked column, its eyes like twin moons staring right through you. This isn't just any bird. It's the sacred symbol of Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and all things Athens holds dear. The owl's not here for a casual flyby. It's got a job, and you're about to find out what. Let's set the scene properly. You're trudging along a cobblestone path, sandals kicking up dust that smells faintly of time. The city's a maze of whitewashed houses, their flat roofs glowing under a sky so clear you could count every star. Athens at night isn't sleepy, it's electric. Philosophers argue in courtyards, sailors swap stories by the docks, and somewhere a poet's scribbling verses about love or war or both. But the owl, it's not distracted by the chaos. It's Athena's eyes in the dark, her way of keeping tabs on her city when the sun's not looking. Fun fact, the Athenians loved this bird so much, they stamped it on their silver tetradrachm coins. Pick one up, and you'd see its beady eyes glaring back like it's judging your spending habits. Now, here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians swore the owl could predict storms. If it hooted 3 times before dawn, better batten down your olive grove, because Zeus was about to throw a tantrum. No one's sure if it was true, but they believed it, and that's what counts. Historians still argue whether the owl was just a symbol, or if Athena literally sent it to spy on mortals. Did she enchant it to report back, or was it just a really smart bird? No one knows, but as you stand there feeling those eyes on you, it's hard not to wonder if Athena's got your number. You keep walking the city's pulse, thumping around you. The owl lifts off silent as a ghost, and you swear it's following you. Its wings cut through the night, a shadow against the stars, and you can't shake the feeling it's sizing you up. Is it judging your courage, your wisdom? Or maybe it just knows you snuck an extra fig from that market stall earlier. Either way, it's not just a bird, it's a presence. A reminder that Athens belongs to Athena, and she's not one to let her city slip into chaos. You pass a temple, its marble steps cool under your feet, and you notice a small offering of olives left at the base. Someone's been praying for wisdom, or maybe just a good night's sleep. The owl's role isn't just about looking creepy, though. It's tied to Athena's whole deal, wisdom, strategy, and protection. Athens wasn't just a city, it was a statement. Built on brains and bronze, it stood up to empires like Persia and laughed in their faces. The owl, with its unblinking stare, was like Athena's logo, a promise that this city didn't sleep even when the moon was high. You can almost hear her now, whispering through the owl's feathers. "Keep it together, Athens. I'm watching. And let's be real, if a goddess is watching you through a bird, you're not going to slack off." You pause by a fountain water trickling like a lullaby and glance at the owl again. It's moved to a nearby olive tree, its head swiveling to track a group of cloaked figures hurrying through an alley. Shady business, probably. Athens at night was no utopia. Thieves, schemers, and the occasional drunk philosopher kept things lively. The owl doesn't care about their drama, though. It's got bigger fish to fry, or bigger mice anyway. Its job is to watch, to witness, to make sure Athens doesn't unravel while the gods catch a nap. Here's a little joke for you. Why did Athena pick an owl instead of, say, a hawk? Because hawks don't do night shifts, and owls don't need coffee to stay up. Seriously, though, the owl's night vision made it the perfect sentinel. While you're stumbling over cobblestones, it sees everything, every deal, every whisper, every secret. You start to wonder if it's reporting back to Athena right now, like some divine security camera. Maybe it's telling her, "You're not paying enough attention to this story. Better focus." As you weave through the streets, you notice how the city changes at night. The daytime hustle merchants, shouting carts, creaking, gives way to a quieter, sneakier vibe. You pass a potter's shop, its kiln still warm, and catch a whiff of clay and smoke. The owl's still there, gliding from rooftop to rooftop, its silhouette sharp against the moon. It's not just watching you, it's watching everyone. Athens is Athena's pride and joy, and this owl's her way of making sure it stays that way. You feel a chill, not from the night air, but from the thought that maybe, just maybe, you're part of something bigger tonight. You stop at a crossroads where a statue of Athena gleams faintly, her spear pointed skyward. The owl lands nearby, its talons clicking on stone, and you swear it's staring right into your soul. What does it see? A curious wanderer, a skeptic, or just someone who's really bad at navigating Athens' twisty streets? Whatever it is, you're hooked now. This owl's got stories, and you're about to follow it deeper into the night. You're still wandering Athens' dark streets, the owl's gaze prickling your skin like a whisper you can't ignore. The city's alive, buzzing with a nighttime energy that's equal parts thrilling and unnerving. Torches sputter along narrow alleys, their flames licking the cool air, and you catch the scent of roasted lamb from a tavern where laughter spills out like wine. The cobblestones under your sandals are uneven, worn smooth by centuries of feet, and you're trying not to trip while keeping one eye on that owl. It's perched on a rooftop, now head cocked, watching the chaos below, like it's got a front row seat to the world's messiest play. The streets are a labyrinth, twisting past mud brick houses with shuttered windows, and the occasional temple glowing faintly under moonlight. You hear a dog bark a cartwheel creak, and somewhere a woman singing softly, probably to a kid who won't sleep. Athens at night isn't just a city. It's a living, breathing thing, and the owl's got its pulse. You're starting to get why Athena picked this bird. Its eyes cut through the dark, like knives catching every flicker of movement, every shady deal in the shadows. You pass a group of merchants haggling over a late-night wine shipment, their voices low and urgent. The owl doesn't blink. It's like it knows who's cheating on the deal. Here's a historical nugget for you. Athens in the 5th century BCE was the heart of Greek culture, pumping out ideas that shaped the world, democracy, philosophy, theater, you name it. This wasn't just a city, it was a revolution in stone and thought. But it wasn't all high-minded debates. The nightlife was wild. Symposiums, those fancy drinking parties, could last until dawn, with poets, politicians, and random hangers-on arguing about love or justice while downing kriters of wine. You're walking past one now, the door ajar, and you glimpse men reclining on couches, their faces flushed, arguing loudly about whether courage is learned or innate. The owl perched on a nearby olive tree seems to roll its eyes. Or maybe that's just you projecting. Now, for something quirkier, some Athenians believed owls could ward off evil spirits. They'd hang owl feathers over doorways, or carve tiny owl figurines to keep the bad vibes at bay. Superstitious, sure. But when you're living in a city where gods supposedly meddle in your daily life, you take what protection you can get. Historians still argue whether these owl charms were just folk tradition or tied to Athena's actual cult. Was it devotion to the goddess, or just people hedging their bets against a spooky night? You're not sure, but as you glance at the owl, its stare feels like it could scare off more than just spirits. You keep moving, the air growing cooler as you weave through a quieter part of the city. The streets narrow, and the torchlight fades, leaving you in a pool of moonlight. You're near the agora, now the marketplace that's usually a riot of color and noise during the day. At night, it's different. Eerie, almost. The stalls are covered with rough cloth, and the only sounds are the rustle of stray cats and the distant hoot of your feathered friend. You spot it again, gliding silently to a statue of Hermes, its wings barely stirring the air. It's like the owls patrolling, making sure no one's messing with Athena's city while she's off doing goddess things. Let's pause for a joke. Why doesn't Athena's owl ever get lost? Because it's got a goddess-level GPS in those eyes. Seriously, though, owls were the ultimate night hunters with vision so sharp they could spot a mouse from a rooftop. For Athenians, that made them the perfect symbol of vigilance. You're starting to feel it now, the weight of being watched. Not in a creepy way, but like the city's got a guardian who doesn't miss a thing. You trip over a loose stone and mutter something about needing better sandals. The owl doesn't laugh, but you swear its head tilts like it's amused. You pass a small shrine to Athena, just a niche in a wall with a clay owl statue and a handful of wilted flowers. Someone's been here, maybe praying for wisdom to ace a court case or avoid getting swindled at the market. You wonder if the owl's presence makes their prayers louder, like it's a direct line to Athena. The city's full of these little shrines tucked into corners, like reminders that the gods are never far. You're tempted to leave an offering yourself, maybe a coin or a bad joke, but you keep walking, the owl's gaze urging you on. The street opens into a wider plaza, where a fountain burbles softly its water, catching the moonlight like liquid silver. You dip your fingers in the cold, shocking your skin, and notice the owl's moved again, now perched on a low wall. It's watching a group of cloaked figures whispering in the shadows. Thieves, lovers, philosophers planning a late-night debate club. You can't tell, but the owl knows. Its head swivels, tracking their every move, and you feel a shiver. Athens at night is full of secrets, and this bird's the keeper of them all. Here's another joke to lighten the mood. What do you call an owl that's bad at keeping secrets? A hoot and tell. Okay, maybe that one's a stretch, but you're grinning. Right. The owl doesn't care for your comedy routine. It's too busy watching a drunk sailor stumble out of a tavern singing off-key about Poseidon's trident. The sailor's got no idea he's being monitored, but you do. You're starting to see the pattern. Athens never sleeps, and neither does the owl. It's Athena's way of keeping the city's heart beating steady, even when the night tries to pull it off course. You turn down another street, the air thick with the scent of pine and sea salt from the nearby harbor. The owl follows its flight so silent you only notice it when it lands on a broken column. You're getting used to its presence now, but it still makes your skin tingle. It's not just a bird, it's a symbol, a spy, a sentinel. Athens is a city of ideas, but ideas can be dangerous, especially at night, when tongues loosen and plans hatch. The owl's there to make sure those plans don't spiral into chaos. As you walk, you notice how the city's sounds shift. Less laughter, now more whispers. The night's getting deeper, and you're deeper in Athens' web. The owl's still with you, its eyes glinting like polished bronze. You're not sure where it's leading you, but you're hooked. This city, this night, this owl, they're weaving a story, and you're right in the middle of it. You take a deep breath, the cool air filling your lungs, and keep moving, ready for whatever the owl's got in store next. You're still weaving through Athens' moonlit streets, the owl's silent shadow trailing you like a whisper you can't shake. The air's thick with the scent of cedar smoke and sea brine, and the city's pulse hums under your feet. You're deeper in now, the narrow alleys giving way to broader paths lined with olive trees, their leaves silver in the starlight. The owl's up there, perched on a gnarled branch, its eyes glowing like tiny lanterns. You're starting to wonder if it's sizing you up for a divine PowerPoint presentation to Athena. Why did this goddess pick an owl of all creatures to be her sacred sidekick? That's what you're about to unravel, and trust me, it's not just because owls are cute in a creepy way. You pause under the tree, the ground cool against your sandals, and stare up at the owl. It doesn't flinch. Its gaze is steady, like it's seen every human flaw, and isn't impressed. Athena, goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy, didn't just pick this bird at random. Historically, owls were revered in Athens as symbols of keen sight and cunning. By the 5th century BCE, they were so tied to the city's identity that Athenian coins, those shiny silver tetradrachms, had the owl's face stamped on them, a nod to Athena's protection. You can almost picture some ancient mint worker chiseling those beady eyes, hoping the goddess approved of his art. But why an owl? You're standing there, moonlight pooling around you, and it hits you. Owls own the night. Their eyes pierce darkness. Their wings move without a sound, and they hunt with a precision that'd make even the sharpest Spartan jealous. Athena's all about clarity, cutting through the fog of chaos with wisdom. An owl's the perfect avatar for that. It sees what others miss, just like Athena sees through mortal nonsense. You imagine her up on Olympus, sipping nectar, saying, "I need a creature that screams, 'I know your secrets.'" Owl it is. Here's a quirky tidbit: some Athenians thought owls were psychic. Not just storm predictors like you heard earlier, but full-on fortune tellers. If an owl landed on your roof, it wasn't just chilling. It was delivering a message, maybe about your love life or your next business deal. No hard proof, of course, but folks swore by it, leaving little owl-shaped offerings to curry favor. Historians still argue whether this was just superstition or part of Athena's cult, where owls were seen as divine messengers. Did people really believe the goddess was beaming thoughts into those feathered heads? Or was it just a way to feel closer to her? You're not sure. But the owl above you looks like it's got opinions. It's not sharing. You start walking again, the owl gliding to another tree, its wings a silent ripple in the night. The street's quieter now, the tavern's laughter fading behind you. You pass a potter's workshop, its kiln still glowing faintly, and catch a whiff of damp clay. The owl's watching a stray cat slink by, but its focus feels bigger, like it's tracking the whole city. You wonder what Athena saw in this bird beyond its night vision superpowers. Maybe it's the way owls seem to think before they act, those long, unblinking stares, like they're solving a puzzle you can't even see. Sounds like Athena, right? Always 3 steps ahead, plotting strategies while you're still tying your sandals. Let's lighten the mood with a joke. Why did Athena's owl never join the choir? Because its hoots were too wise for harmony. Okay, you're not laughing, but the owl might be smirking. You keep moving the path, sloping upward toward the Acropolis, its silhouette looming like a sleeping giant. The owl follows, landing on a low wall, its talons clicking softly. You're starting to feel like its sidekick, not the other way around. Every time you glance at it, you get the sense it's judging your life choices. Like that time you tried to haggle for figs and ended up with a handful of raisins. The owl's role goes deeper than symbolism, though. Athena wasn't just about book smarts. She was a warrior, too, all about calculated moves and cool-headed battles. Owls with their stealth and precision mirror that. You imagine Athena picking this bird because it doesn't waste energy flapping around or squawking for attention. It watches it, waits, it strikes. You're passing a small barracks now where hoplites' shields lean against a wall, their bronze glinting. The owl's perched nearby like it's inspecting the troops. Maybe it's Athena's way of making sure her soldiers stay sharp, even when the city's asleep. You stop by a fountain, its water gurgling like a soft lullaby. The owl's on a statue, now some minor deity you don't recognize, and its head swivels to track a cloaked figure darting through an alley. Shady stuff as usual. Athens at night is a hotbed of schemes, and the owl's got a front row seat. You dip your hand in the fountain, the cold biting your fingers, and wonder if the owl's reporting all this to Athena. Does she get a nightly briefing? Yo, goddess, that guy in the agora's up to no good again. You grin at the thought, but the owl's stare wipes the smirk off your face. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl that's Athena's favorite? The wise guy. Yeah, it's cheesy, but you're in ancient Athens, so cut me some slack. The owl doesn't care for your puns. It's too busy watching a group of philosophers arguing under a tree. Their voices rise something about justice versus power, and you catch a snippet about Socrates stirring trouble again. The owl's unfazed, like it's heard this debate 1,000 times. You're starting to see why Athena picked it. Nothing rattles this bird. It's all focus all the time. You keep walking the city's sounds, softening as you climb higher. The air's fresher here, tinged with pine from the hills. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken column that looks like it's seen better days. You're getting why it's Athena's chosen one. It's not just about seeing in the dark. It's about understanding what's worth seeing. Athens is a city of big ideas and bigger egos, and someone or something has to keep it all in check. The owl's that something, a feathered reminder that wisdom doesn't sleep even when the city does. You pause, leaning against a wall, the stone cool against your back. The owl's still there, its eyes locked on you, like you're the most interesting thing in Athens right now. Maybe you are. Or maybe it's just waiting for you to do something dumb so it can report back to Athena. Either way, you're hooked on its story. The night's deepening, the stars are sharper, and you're ready to follow this owl wherever it leads next. You're climbing the rocky path to the Acropolis. Now the air sharp with pine and dust, the city's hum fading below. The Parthenon looms ahead, its marble columns ghostly under the moonlight, like a temple to the god's own dreams. You feel the owl's presence, though you can't see it, just a rustle of feathers, a flicker in the shadows. It's up there, somewhere, perched on the Parthenon's edge, Athena's silent guardian watching over her city's crown. You're not just a wanderer anymore. You're stepping into sacred territory, and that owl's got you in its sights, making sure you don't trip over your own ego. The Parthenon's a marvel even in the dark. Its stone glows faintly, as if soaking up the stars. You run your hand along a column, cool and smooth, and imagine the sculptors who carved this place, their chisels singing under Athena's watchful eye. Historically, the Parthenon was built in the 440s BCE, a monument to Athens' victory over Persia, and a love letter to Athena herself. It housed her massive gold and ivory statue, a blinked-out goddess staring down at anyone who dared enter. You can't see her now, but you feel her presence, and the owl's stare is like her proxy, making sure you show some respect. You circle the temple sandals crunching on gravel and spot the owl at last. It's perched on a broken pediment, its silhouette sharp against the night sky. Those eyes, unblinking, unnerving, seem to say, "You're on my turf now." You're not sure if it's guarding the temple or judging your life choices, but either way, it's not messing around. The Parthenon's not just a building, it's Athena's house, and the owl's like her bouncer keeping the riffraff in check. You half expect it to demand a password, or at least a decent offering. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed the Parthenon's owls weren't just birds, but spirits of dead priests lingering to protect the temple. Creepy, right? They'd whisper about seeing owls flit through the columns at midnight, carrying messages from the afterlife. No one's got proof, but the stories stuck around passed down in tavern tales. Historians still argue whether these owl sightings were just superstition or part of Athena's cult rituals. Were they actual birds, or did people see what they wanted to see in the goddess's shadow? You're not sure, but as you stand here, the owl's stare feels like it could pierce the veil between worlds. You keep moving, skirting the Parthenon's base, where shadows pool like ink. The air's heavy with the scent of myrtle and wax from votive candles left by devotees. You spot one flickering in a niche, its flame dancing like it's got secrets. The owl shifts, gliding to a closer perch, and you swear it's tracking your every step. You're starting to get why it's Athena's chosen one. Nothing escapes those eyes. The Parthenon's a beacon of Athens' power, but it's vulnerable at night when thieves or vandals might get bold. The owl's here to make sure that doesn't happen. Its silent wings, a warning to anyone dumb enough to try. Let's toss in a joke. Why's the owl the Parthenon's best security guard? Because it works for feathers and doesn't need a lunch break. You chuckle, but the owl's not amused. It's too busy scanning the darkness. You notice a group of priests nearby their robes, swishing as they murmur prayers to Athena. They don't see the owl, but you do, and it feels like you're in on a secret. The Parthenon's not just stone and statues. It's the heart of Athens, and the owl's its pulse, keeping watch when the city dreams. You pause by a frieze, its carved warriors frozen in mid-battle, and wonder what the owl's seen over the centuries. Wars, festivals, lovers, sneaking kisses in the shadows. This place has stories, and the owls witness them all. You're tempted to climb higher to get closer to the temple's heart, but the owl's gaze stops you. It's like it's saying, "You're curious, but don't push your luck. You respect that." Athena's not exactly the forgiving type, and her owl's got that same no-nonsense vibe. The night's deepening, the stars sharper now, and you catch a whiff of sea salt from the distant harbor. The owl lifts off, circling the Parthenon, its wings cutting through the air like a blade. You follow its path, with your eyes feeling the weight of this place. The Parthenon's not just a monument, it's a promise of wisdom, strength, and Athena's eternal watch. The owl's part of that promise, a feathered sentinel that doesn't sleep, doesn't blink, doesn't miss a thing. You're starting to feel small under its stare, like you're just one piece of Athens' sprawling puzzle. Here's another joke to keep you grounded. What do you call an owl that loves architecture, a Parthenon fan? Okay, maybe it's not your best laugh of the night, but you're grinning. Right. The owl doesn't care. It's too busy watching a stray dog sniff around the temple's base. You wonder if it's reporting back to Athena like dog at Sector 3, probably chasing its tail. You're starting to see the owl as more than a bird. It's a link to the divine, a reminder that Athens belongs to Athena, and she's not letting it go. You step back, the Parthenon's columns towering above you, and feel a chill that's not just the night air. The owl's still there, perched high, its eyes catching the moonlight like polished coins. You're not sure what it's looking for, but you're glad it's on your side, or at least you hope it is. The city's alive below it, sounds drifting up like a distant song, but up here, it's just you, the temple, and the owl. You take a deep breath, the air cool and sharp, and keep moving, ready to see where this feathered guide leads you next. You're slipping down from the Acropolis, the Parthenon's marble fading into the night, like a dream you're not ready to leave. The air's crisp, laced with pine, and the faint tang of sea salt from the harbor. Athens hums below, a mix of laughter, clinking cups, and the occasional bark of a stray dog. The owl's still with you, a shadow flitting through the stars, its eyes like polished amber, tracking your every step. You're not just wandering, now you're caught in a divine drama, where gods bicker like family at a reunion, and the owl's got a front-row seat to the chaos. You're on a dusty path, sandals crunching against gravel, when you spot the owl perched on a gnarled olive tree. Its gaze feels like a spotlight, and you're half convinced it's reporting your every move to Athena. This isn't just about keeping Athens safe. It's about a celestial grudge match that sets the owl's nighttime hustle in motion. Athena and Poseidon, the ultimate power couple who can't stand each other, have been duking it out over this city forever. Historically, their contest for Athens' patronage is the stuff of legend. Athena's olive tree versus Poseidon's salty spring, with her gift winning the crowd. You can almost hear Poseidon muttering curses from his underwater lair, probably plotting a comeback. The owl shifts, its talons clicking, and you feel the weight of that ancient rivalry. You're passing a small shrine to Poseidon now, its altar cluttered with shells and a cracked trident carving. The owl's watching from above, like it's daring Poseidon to try something. Athena's not just chilling on Olympus, She's got her owl out here, making sure her rival doesn't stir up trouble. You imagine Poseidon sending a rogue wave to the docks, or whispering bad ideas into sailors' dreams. The owl's job: keep Athens locked down its silent wings, a reminder that Athena's got this city on a leash. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians swore Poseidon's dolphins would splash messages to sailors trying to outshine Athena's owls. Picture a dolphin flipping its tail at the harbor, thinking it's slick, while the owl just glares from a rooftop. No proof this happened, but it's the kind of gossip you'd hear over a jug of wine. Historians still argue whether the owl's patrols were a jab at Poseidon or just Athena flexing her wisdom. Was she using her bird to show she's the boss, or was it all symbolic? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes bore into you, it feels like it's got Poseidon's schemes on lock. You keep moving the path, twisting into a narrow street where torches flicker like they're gossiping too. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken column, and you swear it's scanning for trouble. You pass a group of merchants, their voices low, arguing over a shipment of grain. They're nervous, glancing at the shadows, and you wonder if they sense the owl too. Athens at night is a hotbed of deals. Some legit, some not. And the owl's here to make sure Poseidon's meddling doesn't tip the scales. You're starting to see it as Athena's enforcer, keeping the city's balance while the gods play their games. Let's toss in a joke. Why is Poseidon so salty about Athena's owl? It keeps hooting his plans out of tune. You grin, but the owl's all business, its gaze locked on a sailor stumbling by, muttering about a lost ship. You're near a fountain now, its water gurgling like a soft laugh. The owl lands on its edge, talons scraping stone, and you dip your fingers in the cold, snapping you awake. You think about that olive tree, Athena gifted. Its roots are still out there, tying Athens to her. The owl's part of that deal, a feathered bouncer making sure Poseidon doesn't crash the party. You step into a wider street, where a crowd's gathered around a bard, spinning tales of gods and monsters. He's got them hooked, describing Athena's victory, but the owl's watching, like it's fact-checking his story. You smile, remembering that divine spat Poseidon's probably still fuming, plotting his next move. The owl doesn't care. It's got Athens back. You notice a small altar nearby, piled with olives, and a clay owl figurine. Someone's praying, maybe for wisdom, maybe to keep Poseidon's temper at bay. The owl's gaze feels like a shield, protecting the city's heart from divine drama. Here's another joke to keep you going. What do you call an owl that trolls Poseidon, a feathered prankster? Okay, it's not your best laugh, but the owl's too busy to care. It's watching a cloaked figure slip into an alley, probably up to no good. You're tempted to follow, but its stare stops you cold, like it's saying, "Stay out of it, mortal." Athens is a battlefield for godly egos, and the owl's the one keeping score, making sure Athena's wisdom outshines Poseidon's waves. You keep walking the air cooler, now tinged with the scent of damp earth and distant sea. The owl glides to a rooftop, its wings silent, and you feel like you're chasing a ghost. The city's alive, its secrets pulsing in the shadows, and the owl's got them all mapped out. You're just a wanderer caught in the crossfire of a divine feud, but you're hooked, ready to see where this feathered guide takes you next. You're deep in Athens, now the harbor's salty tang, fading as you slip into the city's shadowed heart. The streets are tighter here, a maze of mud brick walls and flickering torches, their smoke curling like ghosts in the moonlight. You hear a donkey bray, a baby's cry, and the soft clink of loom weights from a house where someone's weaving past midnight. The owl's still with you, a silent glide above its eyes, catching starlight like twin coins. It's leading you somewhere, and you're starting to suspect it's not just about keeping Athens safe. It's about showing you the city's secrets, the ones that only come alive when the sun's gone. You're in a part of town where the respectable folks don't linger. Alleys twist like secrets themselves, and you catch whiffs of sour wine and stale bread. The owl perches on a crooked signpost, its gaze sweeping the street like a lantern. You're not sure what it's looking for, but you feel exposed, like every misstep you've ever made is written in those unblinking eyes. Athens at night is a different beast, less philosophy, more scheming. You spot a figure slipping coins to another in a doorway, their whispers sharp and quick. The owl sees it too, and you wonder if Athena's getting a full report. Historically, Athens was a hub of trade and ideas, but it wasn't all high-minded debates. By the 5th century BCE, the city's ports and markets drew all sorts: merchants, spies, thieves who thrived in the dark. The agora quiet now was a daytime circus of deals, some shadier than others. At night, those deals moved to back alleys like this one, where the owl's gaze feels like Athena's judgment. You imagine her up on Olympus, sipping nectar, nodding as her owl tattles on some merchant skimming profits. The city's wealth depended on trust, and the owl's here to make sure no one's gaming the system. Here's a quirky tidbit: some Athenians believed owls could sniff out liars. They'd watch for one to hoot near a deal if it did. Someone was getting called out. No proof it worked, but you can picture a nervous trader sweating under those eyes, wondering if his shady olive oil scam was busted. Historians still argue whether the owl's role was purely symbolic or if Athena's followers saw it as a literal lie detector. Was it just a bird doing bird things, or did it carry her divine vibe? You're not sure, but as you dodge a puddle that smells suspiciously like wine, the owl's stare feels like it could spot a fib from a mile away. You keep moving, the alley opening into a small courtyard, where a lone fig tree stands, its leaves rustling in the breeze. The owl lands on a branch, its talons clicking, and you swear it's sizing up the shadows. You notice a clay shard on the ground, etched with a name, probably from an ostracism vote, where Athenians banished troublemakers. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it saw that vote go down, if it knows who got the boot. Athens is a city of secrets, and the owl's got the master key, flitting through the night to uncover what's hidden. Let's lighten things with a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst gossip? Because it hoots the truth to everyone. You grin, but the owl's not laughing. It's too busy tracking a cloaked figure darting across the courtyard. You're tempted to follow, but the owl's gaze pins you like a warning. This isn't your fight. You're just a wanderer caught in the web of Athens' nighttime intrigues. The air's thick with the scent of damp earth and herbs, and you hear a soft chant from a nearby house. Someone's praying, maybe to Athena, maybe to keep the owl's eyes off their secrets. You step into another alley, narrower still, the walls closing in like they're whispering their own stories. The owl glides ahead, its wings a silent ripple, and you feel like you're chasing a ghost. You pass a tavern, its door cracked open, spilling light, and the sound of dice rolling. Gamblers probably betting their last drachma. The owl doesn't care about their luck. It's watching for bigger stakes, like a smuggler sneaking goods past the city guards. You're starting to see Athens as a puzzle, and the owl's the one piece that sees it all connecting the dots while you're just trying to keep up. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl that's too nosy? A feathered snoop. Okay, it's not comedy gold, but you're smirking right. The owl's not amused. It's perched on a broken cart now, watching a group of men arguing over a sack of grain. Their voices rise, and you catch words like shortchanged and cheat. The owl's head swivels, and you wonder if it's filing that away for Athena. This city's built on trust, but trust is fragile, and the owl's here to make sure it doesn't crack. You keep walking the alley, spitting you out near a small shrine to Hermes' god of travelers and thieves. A clay owl figurine sits on the altar surrounded by wilted flowers. Someone's hedging their bets, praying to both gods, maybe hoping the owl won't rat them out. You smile at the thought, but the owl's gaze is relentless, like it's saying, "I see everything, pal." You're starting to feel the weight of its watch, like Athens itself is alive, its secrets pulsing under the surface, and the owl's the one keeping it all in check. The night's deeper now, the stars brighter, and you catch a whiff of smoke from a distant hearth. The owl lifts off, circling above its eyes, locked on something you can't see. You're not sure where it's leading you, but you're hooked, drawn into the city's underbelly, where the real stories hide. Athens is a place of light and shadow, and the owl's the one who navigates both, guarding Athena's city, while you stumble through its secrets. You're threading through Athens' shadowy veins, the city's pulse thrumming under your sandals as the night thickens. The air's heavy with the scent of olive oil and dust, and you hear a distant lyre, its notes sharp against the murmur of voices. The owl's still with you, a silent specter gliding from rooftop to rooftop, its eyes like twin stars slicing through the dark. You're starting to feel like its sidekick, trailing it through a city that never quite sleeps. Those eyes aren't just watching, they're tracking Athens' heartbeat, every whisper, every deal, every secret that stirs in the moonlight. You're in a bustling quarter now, where taverns spill light and laughter onto the cobblestones. The owl perches on a cracked beam, its gaze sweeping the street like a lighthouse beam. You notice how it lingers on certain spots, a cloaked figure slipping coins to a guard, a woman whispering urgently to a man in a doorway. It's like the owl's got a mental map of Athens' soul, pinpointing every beat of its restless rhythm. You're not just wandering anymore. You're following a guide that sees what you can't, and it's pulling you deeper into the city's core. Historically, Athens in the 5th century BCE was a powerhouse, its democracy and culture pulsing through the Greek world. But that pulse didn't stop at sundown. Nighttime was when the city's true character emerged. Philosophers debated, merchants schemed, and lovers met under cover of darkness. The owl Athena's eyes in the night was more than a symbol. It was a witness to this hidden life. You imagine it reporting back to her like a divine journalist, filing stories on Athens' nightly dramas. That cloaked figure you saw probably dodging taxes. The owl knows, and you're starting to suspect it's got dirt on everyone. Here's a quirky tidbit: some Athenians believed owls could sense earthquakes before they hit. A sudden flurry of hoots, and folks would brace for a tremor, blaming Zeus or Poseidon for the shakeup. No science to back it, but in a city where gods were as real as the cobblestones, you didn't question an owl's warning. Historians still argue whether the owl's role was purely symbolic, or if it was seen as a divine early warning system. Were Athenians just reading too much into a bird's behavior? Or did Athena enchant her owls to pick up on cosmic vibes? You're not sure. But as the owl's eyes lock on you, you feel like it could predict your next misstep. You keep moving the street, narrowing into an alley where torchlight barely reaches. The owl glides ahead, its wings a whisper against the night. You pass a potter's stall, its wares stacked haphazardly, and catch a whiff of clay and smoke. The owl's watching a group of youths, laughing too loudly, their wine cups sloshing. They're oblivious to its stare, but you're not. It's like the owl's gauging the city's mood, making sure its heartbeat doesn't skip. You wonder if Athena's up there, leaning on her spear, nodding as her owl clocks every detail of this chaotic night. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl such a great DJ? It always knows the city's vibe. You smirk, but the owl's too busy scanning the shadows to care. You're near a small plaza now, where a fountain gurgles softly its water, catching moonlight like liquid silver. The owl lands on its edge, talons clicking, and you swear it's listening to the city's rhythm, every laugh, every whisper, every creak of a cart. You dip your fingers in the fountain, the cold biting your skin, and feel Athens pulse under your touch, steady but wild, like a song only the owl can hear. You step into a wider street, where a crowd gathers around a storyteller spinning tales of gods and heroes. His voice rises describing Athena's victory over Poseidon, and you catch the owl's gaze like it's fact-checking the guy. You grin, remembering that divine squabble from earlier. Poseidon's still salty about losing Athens, and the owl's here to make sure his grumbling doesn't disrupt the city's flow. You're starting to see Athens as a living thing, its heartbeat echoing in the owl's unblinking stare, keeping time with the night's chaos. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl that's always on beat Athena's metronome? Okay, it's not your best laugh, but the owl's not here for comedy. It's got a city to monitor. You notice a merchant slip a coin to a guard, their eyes darting nervously. The owl sees it too, its head swiveling like it's filing the moment away. Athens' wealth depends on trust, but trust is slippery at night, and the owl's here to keep it in check, making sure the city's pulse doesn't falter. You keep walking the air cooler now tinged with pine from the hills. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken statue of some forgotten hero, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You're passing a shrine to Athena, its altar strewn with olives, and a tiny clay owl. Someone's been praying maybe for wisdom, maybe to avoid getting caught in a shady deal. The owl doesn't care about their motives. It's watching the bigger picture, tracking the city's rhythm through every whispered plot and drunken song. The night's deepening, the stars sharper, and you catch a whiff of sea salt from the distant harbor. The owl lifts off, circling above its eyes, locked on something you can't see. You're hooked now, drawn into Athens' heartbeat, following a guide that knows every secret pulse. The city's alive, and the owl's its guardian, keeping time with a gaze that never blinks. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for whatever this feathered sentinel shows you next. You're weaving through Athens' moonlit streets, the city's pulse, a steady thrum under your sandals, like a song only the night can hear. The air's thick with the scent of roasted figs and wood smoke, and you catch the distant clatter of a loom, someone working late into the dark. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to olive tree, its eyes like twin flames, cutting through the gloom. You're not just wandering now. You're chasing the owl's gaze, drawn to a courtyard where Athens' brightest minds gather under starlight, their voices sharp with ideas. The owl's watching, and you're about to join Socrates and his crew, debating life's big questions, while Athena's sentinel keeps tabs. You step into a small plaza, where torches cast flickering shadows on whitewashed walls. A group of men lounge on stone benches, their cloaks draped loosely, wine cups in hand. Socrates is at the center, his voice low but piercing, like he's unraveling the universe one question at a time. You catch snippets something about truth virtue, and whether courage is just stubbornness in disguise. The owl perches on a nearby column, its head swiveling, and you swear it's eavesdropping, ready to report back to Athena. You're not sure if it's here for the philosophy, or just making sure these guys don't start a riot. Historically, Athens in the 5th century BCE was a hotbed for thinkers, like Socrates, Plato, and their buddies, who turned the city into a philosophical playground. Nighttime was prime time for these debates, often at symposiums, where wine fueled arguments about justice, love, or the gods. Socrates was infamous for asking questions that left everyone annoyed and enlightened, poking holes in their beliefs like a kid popping bubbles. You imagine the owl listening in its unblinking stare, catching every contradiction, every half-baked idea. Athena, goddess of wisdom, must love this scene, her city alive with thought her owl keeping watch. Here's a quirky tidbit: some Athenians thought owls were drawn to philosophers because their debates lit up the night with wisdom. They'd joke that an owl landing nearby meant your argument was either brilliant or doomed. No evidence, but it's the kind of story you'd hear over a second cup of wine. Historians still argue whether the owl's presence at these gatherings was just coincidence or a sign of Athena's approval. Was it drawn to the spark of ideas, or was it just hunting mice in the courtyard? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes lock on Socrates, you feel like it's grating his logic. You edge closer, the cobblestones cool under your feet, and catch Socrates asking, "What is justice really?" The group groans, but they dive in, tossing ideas like they're juggling torches. The owl doesn't blink its gaze, sweeping the scene like a silent critic. You're tempted to join, but you're no philosopher, just a wanderer caught in Athens' intellectual buzz. The air's heavy with the scent of myrtle and wine, and you notice a clay owl figurine on a nearby bench, probably someone's good luck charm for winning the debate. You grin, imagining the owl overhead, thinking, "Nice try," but Athena's got the real answers. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl such a bad debater? It just hoots and leaves you confused. You chuckle, but the owl's too busy watching a young guy stammer through an argument about love. Socrates dismantles him with a single question, and the crowd laughs, their voices echoing off the walls. The owl's unfazed, like it's heard this all before. You're starting to see it as more than a bird. It's Athena's stand-in, soaking up the city's ideas, making sure the pursuit of wisdom doesn't veer into chaos. You lean against a wall, the stone rough against your back, and watch the debate heat up. Someone's arguing that virtue's just a habit, and Socrates is circling like a verbal shark. The owl shifts its talons, clicking, and you wonder if it's judging their reasoning or just bored. Athens at night is a stage for big thoughts, but it's messy egos, clash, wine spills, and someone's always one question away from storming off. The owl's here to keep it steady, a reminder that Athena's watching even when the moon's high. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at a symposium? The designated thinker. Okay, It's not your best laugh, but you're grinning, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a guy in a fancy cloak try to outsmart Socrates, only to trip over his own logic. You notice a stray cat slinking by, eyeing the owl, and you wonder if it senses the bird's divine vibe. The owl ignores it, its focus on the humans. Their words weaving a tapestry of ideas that Athens thrives on. You keep moving, skirting the plaza's edge, the debate fading behind you. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked statue of some minor deity, and you feel its gaze like a nudge. You pass a small shrine to Athena, its altar piled with olives and a tiny owl carving. Someone's been praying maybe for a spark of wisdom to impress Socrates. The owl's eyes follow you, and you're starting to feel like part of this scene, caught in the city's intellectual pulse, guided by a bird that sees more than you ever will. The night's deeper now, the stars sharper, and you catch a whiff of sea salt from the distant harbor. The owl lifts off, circling above its wings, a whisper in the dark. You're hooked, drawn into Athens' restless mind, following a guide that knows every argument, every idea, every truth. The city's alive, and the owl's its silent judge, keeping watch over a night that never stops thinking. You take a deep breath, the air cool in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered philosopher leads next. You're slipping away from the philosopher's buzz, the echo of Socrates' sharp questions, fading as you dive deeper into Athens' nighttime web. The air's thick with the scent of damp earth and myrtle, and the city's pulse hums under your sandals, a mix of distant laughter, a creaking cart, and the soft wail of a flute. The owl's still with you, a shadow slicing through the starlit sky, its eyes like glowing embers tracking your path. You're not just wandering now. You're on a quest, led by this feathered guide to the oracle at Delphi, where a cryptic clue about Athena's owl waits to unravel its mysteries. You're on a road leading out of Athens, the cobblestones giving way to packed dirt, the city's glow dimming behind you. The owl glides ahead, its wings silent, landing on a gnarled tree by a crossroads. You feel its gaze, like it's urging you to keep up. Delphi's a trek miles away up rocky paths to the sacred sanctuary, where Apollo's priestess, the Pythia, speaks in riddles. You're not there yet, but you can picture it mist, curling around marble columns, the scent of laurel and incense, and the owl's presence tying it all to Athena. You're starting to wonder if this bird's more than a city sentinel. It's a key to divine secrets. Historically, the Delphic oracle was Greece's spiritual hotline, consulted by everyone from kings to farmers in the 5th century BCE. People flocked to ask about wars, marriages, or whether their olive crop would tank. The Pythia's answers were famously vague, like a cosmic fortune cookie leaving you to figure out the rest. You imagine her now, eyes wild, chanting about an owl that sees beyond the stars. The owl perches closer on a milestone, etched with faded Greek, and you swear it's nudging you toward Delphi's truth, like it knows something you don't. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some travelers claimed owls guided them to Delphi, appearing at crossroads to point the way. Lost pilgrims would spot one, hooting in the dark, and take it as a sign from Athena, or maybe Apollo playing nice with his sister. No hard proof, but the story stuck, whispered in taverns, by those who swore they owed their safe journey to a feathered escort. Historians still argue whether the owl's role at Delphi was just folklore or a sign of Athena's influence reaching beyond Athens. Was it her way of flexing wisdom over Apollo's prophecy turf? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes bore into you, It feels like it's got a riddle of its own. You keep moving the road rougher now, lined with wild thyme and scrubby bushes. The owl glides to a new perch, a jagged rock, its talons clicking softly. You're picturing the Pythia's words, something about an owl that watches the night, its wings carrying Athena's will. Maybe it's about vigilance, or maybe it's a warning. Trust the owl, but don't ask too many questions. You grin at the thought, but the owl's stare wipes the smirk away. It's like it's saying, "Focus, mortal. This isn't a game." You're starting to feel the weight of this journey, like you're chasing a truth bigger than Athens itself. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl such a bad oracle? Its prophecies are all hoots and no hints. You chuckle, but the owl's too busy scanning the darkness to care. You pass a small shrine to Apollo, its altar strewn with laurel leaves, and a clay owl figurine. Someone's covering all their divine bases. The owl overhead doesn't seem impressed, its gaze locked on a distant hill where Delphi waits. You're not there yet, but you feel the pull like the owl's leading you to a puzzle only it can solve. You pause by a stream, its water gurgling like a soft laugh, and dip your hands in the cold, biting your fingers. The owl lands nearby on a twisted branch, and you wonder what it's seen at Delphi. Did it hear the Pythia's cryptic words? Did it carry them back to Athena? You imagine the goddess spear in hand, nodding as her owl delivers the news. The oracle's vague again, but I've got it covered. Athens is her city, but Delphi's the world's ear, and the owl's tying them together, a feathered thread in the gods' tapestry. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at Delphi? A riddle with wings. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're grinning, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a lone traveler ahead, his torch flickering as he trudges toward Delphi. You're tempted to follow, but the owl's gaze keeps you rooted, like it's saying, "You're close, but not yet." The night's deeper now, the stars sharper, and you catch a whiff of pine from the hills. You're starting to see the owl as more than Athena's spy. It's a bridge to the divine, carrying whispers from Delphi to Athens. You keep walking the road, climbing now, the air cooler and thinner. The owl glides to a new perch, a crumbling marker, and you feel its eyes like a weight. You're not in Athens anymore. You're on a pilgrimage, chasing a prophecy that's as slippery as the stream you just passed. The owl's leading you, its silent wings, a promise that Athena's wisdom stretches beyond her city into the heart of Greece's mysteries. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for whatever riddle this feathered guide reveals next. You're back in Athens, the road to Delphi, fading like a half-remembered dream. But the owl's still with you, its shadow slicing through the starlit night. The city's alive, its pulse thumping under your sandals. Laughter from a tavern, the clink of coins, a dog's bark echoing off mud brick walls. The air's heavy with olive oil and thyme, and you feel the owl's gaze like a cool breeze on your neck, guiding you through streets that hum with secrets. You're not just chasing its wings now. You're diving into Athena's wisdom, the kind that lights up the dark, and her owl's the one carrying the torch. You're in a quiet corner of the city, where houses lean close, their shutters creaking in the breeze. The owl perches on a rooftop, its eyes glinting like polished bronze, watching a group of women weaving under torchlight. Their fingers dance over looms, and you catch their soft murmurs, prayers to Athena, maybe for skill or patience. The owl's stare feels like her approval, a nod to the wisdom that keeps Athens spinning even at this hour. You're starting to see why this bird's her chosen one. It's not just about seeing in the dark. It's about seeing what matters. Historically, Athena was more than a war goddess. She was the patron of craft, strategy, and clear thinking. In the 5th century, BCE Athens thrived on her gifts, weaving shipbuilding and the kind of smarts that turned a city into an empire. Her wisdom wasn't just for philosophers. It was for the weaver perfecting her cloth, the sailor charting the stars, the general outwitting his enemy. The owl, with its unblinking gaze, embodies that clarity watching over Athens' every move. You imagine it reporting back to her, like those weavers are killing it, but that guy in the agora's scheming again. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls could inspire sudden bursts of insight. A hoot at midnight, and you'd wake up with a brilliant idea, or at least a plan to fix your leaky roof. No proof, but folks swore by it, leaving owl feathers at looms or forges for luck. Historians still argue whether this was just superstition or a nod to Athena's cult, where owls were seen as sparks of her divine mind. Was the owl a muse in feathers, or just a bird doing its thing? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes lock on you, you feel a spark, like it's daring you to think deeper. You keep moving, the street narrowing, the air thick with dust and the faint scent of wool. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken gate, its talons clicking softly. You pass a potter's shop, its kiln still warm, and spot a clay owl on a shelf, probably a gift for Athena. The owl overhead doesn't care. It's watching a man sketching plans on a wax tablet, maybe for a new ship or a temple frieze. You're starting to see Athens as a web of wisdom, every thread tied to Athena, and the owl's the one making sure it doesn't unravel. Let's toss in a joke. Why is Athena's owl so good at brainstorming? It's got a 360-degree view on ideas. You grin, but the owl's too busy scanning the shadows to notice. You're near a small courtyard now, where a teacher drills a boy in geometry, their voices low under the moonlight. The owl's watching like it's grading their math. You're tempted to eavesdrop, but its gaze keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Keep up, mortal wisdom's not a spectator sport." Athens at night is a classroom, and the owl's the strictest teacher. You pause by a fountain, its water murmuring like a soft chant. The owl lands on a nearby wall, its head swiveling to track a group of merchants arguing over prices. Their voices rise, and you catch words like fair and profit. The owl's unfazed, its eyes catching every gesture, every lie. You dip your fingers in the fountain, the cold biting your skin, and think about Athena's wisdom. Cool, clear, cutting through the noise. The owl's her proxy, making sure Athens stays sharp, even when the night tempts it to slip. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl with a bright idea? Athena's light bulb. Okay, it's not comedy gold, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's watching a woman slip a coin to a beggar, her face hidden by a shawl. You wonder if it's charity or a bribe, but the owl knows its gaze like a truth serum. Athens is a city of big ideas and small secrets, and the owl's here to balance them, keeping the city's wisdom from curdling into chaos. You keep walking the street, sloping toward the agora, where torchlight dances on empty stalls. The owl glides to a new perch, a statue of Athena, her spear gleaming faintly. You notice a small shrine nearby, piled with olives, and a tiny owl figurine. Someone's been praying maybe for a spark of genius, or just to get through a tough day. The owl's eyes follow you, and you feel like you're part of this web caught in Athena's design. Her wisdom isn't just in books or debates, it's in the city's bones, and the owl's the one guarding it. The night's deeper now, the stars brighter, and you catch a whiff of sea salt from the distant harbor. The owl lifts off, circling above its wings, a whisper in the dark. You're hooked, drawn into Athens' mind, following a guide that sees every thread of wisdom, every flicker of truth. The city's alive, and the owl's its keeper, watching over a night that never stops thinking. You take a deep breath, the air cool in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered sage leads next. You're plunging deeper into Athens' nighttime pulse, the city's heartbeat thumping through the cobblestones under your sandals. The air's alive with the scent of roasted almonds and torch smoke, and you hear the clatter of carts, the hum of voices bartering in the shadows. The owl's still your guide, a silent shadow flitting from rooftop to lamppost. Its eyes like twin moons cutting through the dark. You're not just wandering. Now, you're weaving through the chaotic buzz of Athens' night markets, where deals are struck, secrets are traded, and Athena's owl watches it all, like a divine accountant, balancing the city's books. You step into the agora, transformed under moonlight into a labyrinth of stalls, draped with cloth and lit by flickering torches. Merchants hawk their wares, olives, pottery bolts of dyed wool, while customers haggle with sharp tongues and sharper glances. The owl perches on a wooden beam, its gaze sweeping the crowd like a hawk, eyeing a field of mice. You feel it stare like it's clocking every coin that changes hands, every whispered deal in the shadows. You're in the heart of Athens' commerce now, and the owl's making sure nobody's pulling a fast one on Athena's city. Historically, the agora was Athens' economic engine in the 5th century BCE, a bustling hub where trade fueled the city's wealth and power. At night, the market took on a shadier edge, less about olives and more about under-the-table deals. Merchants from across the Mediterranean brought goods, gossip, and sometimes trouble, and the owl's presence feels like Athena's way of keeping the chaos in check. You imagine her up on Olympus nodding as her owl reports. That guy with the fake saffron's at it again. The city's prosperity depends on trust, and the owl's here to make sure it doesn't erode. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some traders believed an owl's hoot near a stall meant good luck, or a warning to stop cheating customers. They'd scatter barley grains as offerings, hoping to curry favor with Athena's feathered spy. No proof it worked, but you can picture a nervous merchant glancing up, sweating under those unblinking eyes. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in the market was symbolic, or if Athena's cult used it to enforce fair trade. Was it just a bird drawn to the agora's scraps, or a divine auditor? You're not sure, but as the owl's gaze pins you, you feel like it's tallying your every move. You weave through the crowd, dodging a cart piled with amphorae that smell faintly of wine. The owl glides to a new perch, a stall's awning, its talons gripping the cloth. You notice a merchant slipping a small pouch to another, their eyes darting like they're dodging more than just taxes. The owl sees it too, its head swiveling, and you wonder if it's filing that away for Athena. You're starting to see the market as a game. Everyone's playing angles, and the owl's the referee, making sure Athens' wealth doesn't slip through the cracks. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst market customer? It always knows when you're overcharging. You grin, but the owl's too busy watching a woman barter for a bolt of cloth, her voice sharp as she accuses the seller of shoddy work. The crowd laughs, and you catch a whiff of fresh bread from a nearby stall. You're tempted to grab a loaf, but the owl's stare keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Stay focused. This is where the real action is." Athens at night is a deal-maker's paradise, and the owl's got the best seat in the house. You pause by a fountain, its water splashing softly, catching moonlight like scattered coins. The owl lands on a nearby post, its eyes locked on a group of sailors arguing over a crate of fish. Their voices rise, and you hear short weight and scam tossed around. The owl's unfazed, like it's seen this 1,000 times. You dip your fingers in the fountain, the cold grounding you, and think about Athena's wisdom. Sharp, practical, the kind that keeps a city's markets humming without tipping into chaos. The owl's her proxy, watching every transaction, every lie. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at a night market? A feathered haggler. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a kid swipe an apple from a stall, his grin fading when he notices those eyes. You're starting to see Athens as a web of deals, some honest, some not, and the owl's the one keeping it all in balance. You pass a small shrine to Hermes, god of trade, and thieves its altar piled with coins and a clay owl. Someone's hedging their bets, praying for profit or forgiveness. You keep moving, the market's buzz enveloping you like a song. The owl glides to a new perch, a stack of crates, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You're near a stall selling owl-shaped amulets, their tiny eyes carved to mimic the real thing overhead. The seller's spiel is smooth, promising Athena's blessing, but you catch the owl stare like it's calling his bluff. Athens' markets are the city's lifeblood, and the owl's here to make sure they don't bleed out. You take a deep breath, the air sharp with salt and spice, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered guide leads next. You're still threading through Athens' nocturnal pulse, the night market's clamor fading as you slip into a quieter street, the air thick with the scent of wax and rosemary. The cobblestones under your sandals are slick with dew, and you hear the distant strum of a lyre, a soft counterpoint to the city's restless hum. The owl's with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to olive branch, its eyes like twin stars piercing the dark. You're not just a wanderer, now you're chasing the owl's gaze into a divine errand, where it carries Athena's decrees to mortals, a feathered messenger weaving her will through the night. You're in a residential quarter, where houses huddle close, their flat roofs glowing faintly under moonlight. The owl perches on a clay-tiled ledge, its head swiveling to track a lone figure lighting a lamp at a small shrine. The flame flickers, casting shadows on a carved owl, and you feel a prickle like you're witnessing something sacred. The owl's not just watching Athens, it's delivering Athena's orders, a silent courier between the goddess and her city. You imagine her on Olympus whispering to her owl, "Tell that poet to stop whining and finish his ode." The bird's eyes lock on you, and you wonder if it's got a message for you too. Historically, Athena was the glue holding Athens together in the 5th century BCE, her wisdom guiding everything from laws to warships. Her cult was huge people left offerings at her temples, praying for clarity or victory. The owl, her sacred symbol, wasn't just a logo. It was a conduit, a way for mortals to feel her presence. You picture priests interpreting its hoots as divine nudges, like Athena's, texting her followers through feathers. The owls here perched above this quiet street, making sure her decrees land, whether it's a call for justice or a reminder to fix that leaky aqueduct. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls delivered dreams from Athena, slipping wisdom into your sleep like a godly post-it note. If you woke with a brilliant idea after hearing a hoot, it wasn't just a good nap. It was divine intervention. No proof, but folks swore by it, leaving owl feathers under pillows for luck. Historians still argue whether the owl's role as a messenger was just folklore or part of Athena's cult rituals. Was it carrying her actual commands, or were people just reading divine fan mail into a bird's stare? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes bore into you, it feels like it's got something to say. You keep moving the street, narrowing the air heavy with the scent of damp wool and pine. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken fence, its talons clicking softly. You pass a house where a woman's chanting softly, her voice weaving prayers to Athena. She's offering a handful of olives, and you wonder if the owl's here to deliver her answer, maybe a nod for wisdom or a warning to stop gossiping. You're starting to see the owl as more than a sentinel. It's a bridge between Athens and Olympus, carrying Athena's will to every corner of the city. Let's toss in a joke. Why is Athena's owl the best mailman? It delivers wisdom without needing a stamp. You grin, but the owl's too busy watching a man scribbling on a wax tablet, maybe drafting a speech for the assembly. The owl's gaze feels like Athena's approval, or her red pen ready to mark his mistakes. You're near a small plaza now, where a group of elders whisper about a new law. The owl's watching, like it's making sure their words align with Athena's plan. You're tempted to listen, but its stare keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Keep up, mortal. There's a message to catch." You pause by a fountain, its water gurgling like a soft hymn. The owl lands on a nearby statue, a worn figure of Athena, her spear chipped but proud. You dip your fingers in the water, the cold grounding you, and think about Athena's decrees, clear sharp, the kind that keep Athens from unraveling. The owl's her courier delivering orders to poets, generals, even you, maybe. You notice a clay owl on the altar surrounded by wilted flowers. Someone's been praying, hoping for a divine memo, and the owl's here to make sure it lands. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl with a divine inbox, Athena's spam filter? Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking. Right. The owl doesn't care. It's watching a boy slip a note under a door, probably a love letter or a bribe. You wonder if the owl's reporting that to Athena like this kid's got no game. Athens is a city of whispers and plans, and the owl's the one carrying the messages that keep it humming from the agora to the Acropolis. You keep walking the street sloping toward the city's edge where the air's cooler tinged with sea salt. The owl glides to a new perch, a gnarled tree, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass a small temple, its doors ajar, revealing a priestess sweeping the floor. She glances up, maybe sensing the owl, and you wonder if she's waiting for a sign. The owl's wings are silent, but its presence is loud, a reminder that Athena's voice echoes through the night, guiding her city with every hoot and stare. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for whatever message this feathered courier brings next. You're weaving through Athens' moon-soaked streets, the city's pulse thrumming under your sandals, like a quiet drumbeat. The air's thick with the scent of burning olive oil and sea salt, and you hear the distant wail of a flute weaving through the night's restless hum. The owl's still with you, a shadow flitting from rooftop to statue, its eyes like twin flames slicing the dark. You're not just wandering, now you're stepping into the open-air theater of Dionysus, where Athens' stories come alive under starlight, and Athena's owl watches from above, a silent critic of the city's dramas. You climb the stone steps of the theater, the seats carved into the Acropolis's slope, cool and smooth under your touch. The stage below is lit by torches, their flames dancing like they're part of the performance. A chorus chants their voices, rising in a tragedy about gods and mortals, while the audience leans forward caught in the spell. The owl perches high on a broken column, its gaze sweeping the crowd, and you feel it's not just here for the show. It's Athena's eyes, making sure the city's heart stays true, even in the grip of fiction. Historically, Athens theater was a cultural powerhouse in the 5th century BCE, birthing plays by Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides that wrestled with fate, hubris, and the gods. Night performances were rare, but electric, drawing crowds to laugh, cry, or argue under the stars. The owl's presence feels fitting. Athena, patron of wisdom, would want her city's stories to cut deep, to teach as much as they entertain. You imagine her nodding as the owl watches, ensuring the plays don't just dazzle, but sharpen Athens' soul. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some theatergoers believed an owl flying over a performance was a sign the play pleased Athena. A hoot mid-scene, divine applause. No evidence, but actors would pause hoping for that feathered nod. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in theaters was symbolic, or if Athena's cult saw it as her stamp of approval. Was it just a bird drawn to the torchlight, or a divine reviewer? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes lock on the stage, you feel like it's judging the chorus's timing. You settle on a stone seat, the coolness seeping through your tunic, and watch the actors move their masks, eerie in the flickering light. The owl shifts its talons, clicking, and you swear it's tracking a character, a doomed hero railing against fate. The crowd gasps as he defies the gods, and you wonder if the owl's reporting back to Athena like, "This guy's got hubris issues." The air's heavy with myrtle and wax, and you catch a whiff of wine from a nearby spectator. The theater's alive, and the owl's its silent guardian, making sure Athens' stories stay sharp. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst theater critic? It hoots at all the wrong moments. You grin, but the owl's too busy watching a stagehand fumble a prop, nearly dropping a fake spear. The crowd doesn't notice, but the owl does its gaze like a spotlight. You're starting to see the theater as Athens' mirror, reflecting its dreams and flaws, and the owl's here to make sure the reflection's honest. You notice a clay owl amulet dangling from a woman's neck nearby. She's clutching it, maybe praying for the play to move her. You lean forward, caught in the drama, a heroine pleading with Athena for wisdom. The owl's stare feels like an answer, steady and unyielding. You're tempted to cheer, but its gaze keeps you quiet, like it's saying, "Let the story do the talking." The night's deep, the stars sharp, and you feel the city's pulse in the crowd's murmurs, the actors' cries. The owl's watching it all, ensuring the theater doesn't just entertain, but teaches, weaving Athena's wisdom into every line. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at a play? A feathered fan. Okay, it's not your best laugh, But you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a group of youths whispering in the back, probably mocking the play's heavy ending. You wonder if they sense its stare, if they know Athena's listening through those eyes. The theater's a place where Athens bears its soul, and the owl's making sure it doesn't lose itself in the drama. You keep moving, slipping down the theater's steps, the performance fading behind you. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked arch, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass a small shrine to Dionysus, its altar piled with grapevines, and a tiny owl figurine. Someone's hedging their bets, honoring both the theater god and Athena. The owl's wings are silent, but its presence is loud, a reminder that Athena's wisdom shapes even the stories Athens tells itself. You take a deep breath, the air cool with pine and dust, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered critic leads next. You're slipping away from the theater's fading echoes, the chorus's chants dissolving into the night as Athens' pulse pulls you deeper. The air's heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the city's heartbeat thrums under your sandals. Soft laughter, a distant dog's bark, the creak of a shutter in the breeze. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to tree, its eyes like twin embers slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering. Now, you're venturing into Athena's sacred grove, where her owl hunts silently, a feathered guardian, weaving through the city's holiest shadows. You're on a path leading to a cluster of olive trees, their gnarled branches twisting like ancient hands, reaching for the stars. The grove's tucked away, hidden from Athens' bustle, and the air feels different here, cooler, quieter, like the world's holding its breath. The owl perches on a low branch, its talons gripping the bark, and you feel its gaze steady and piercing, like it's daring you to step into Athena's domain. This is her place, a sanctuary, where her wisdom feels almost tangible, and the owl's making sure you tread lightly. Historically, olive trees were sacred to Athena in the 5th century BCE, tied to her victory over Poseidon when she gifted Athens the first one. These groves weren't just orchards, they were temples without walls, where Athenians prayed for prosperity or clarity. The owl, her sacred creature, was said to haunt these groves, hunting mice and guarding the trees like a divine groundskeeper. You imagine it swooping through the branches, silent as a whisper, ensuring no one dares pluck an olive without Athena's blessing. Its eyes lock on you, and you're half convinced it's checking if you've got sticky fingers. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls in the grove could carry prayers to Athena, like feathered couriers delivering notes to Olympus. Leave an offering under a tree, and an owl's hoot meant your prayer was received, or so they hoped. No proof, but folks would scatter olives and whisper their wishes, trusting the owl to pass them on. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in the groves was symbolic or part of Athena's cult rituals. Was it just a bird hunting in sacred shade, or a divine emissary? You're not sure, but as the owl's stare pins you, it feels like it's got Athena on speed dial. You step deeper into the grove, the ground soft with fallen leaves, the air thick with the scent of sap and soil. The owl glides to a new perch, a twisted branch, its wings a silent ripple. You notice a small altar under a tree, piled with olives, and a clay owl figurine, its eyes carved to match the real one above. Someone's been praying maybe for wisdom, or a good harvest, and the owl's watching, like it's making sure the offering's legit. You're starting to see the grove as Athena's heart, a place where her wisdom takes root, and the owl's her silent enforcer. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the best gardener? It prunes the night without a sound. You grin, but the owl's too busy scanning the shadows to care. You hear a rustle, maybe a mouse, maybe something bigger, and the owl's head swivels, its eyes locking on the source. You're tempted to investigate, but its stare keeps you rooted, like it's saying, "Stay put, mortal. This is my turf." The grove's alive, its branches whispering secrets, and the owl's making sure they stay safe. You pause by a tree, its trunk gnarled and ancient, and run your hand over the bark, cool and rough. The owl's watching a lone figure nearby, a woman, placing a handful of olives at the altar. Her lips move silently, and you wonder what she's asking: guidance, protection, or maybe just a break from life's chaos. The owl doesn't blink its gaze like a shield over the grove. You're starting to feel the weight of this place, like Athena's wisdom is woven into the leaves, and the owl's here to guard every thread. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl in a sacred grove? Athena's night watchman. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a stray cat slink through the trees, probably eyeing the same mouse. The grove's a sanctuary, but it's not immune to Athens' restless energy. Thieves, lovers, or wanderers like you could stumble in. The owl's making sure they don't disturb the peace, its silent wings, a warning to respect Athena's domain. You keep moving, the path winding deeper into the grove, the air cooler and tinged with moss. The owl glides to a new perch, a jagged stump, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass another altar, this one strewn with wilted flowers and a tiny owl carving. Someone's been here praying in the dark, and you wonder if the owl carried their words to Athena. The grove's a place of quiet power, where Athens' heart beats slowest, and the owl's the one keeping it steady, ensuring the city's wisdom doesn't wither. The night's deeper, now the stars sharper, and you catch a whiff of sea salt, carried on the breeze. The owl lifts off, circling above its wings, a whisper in the dark. You're hooked, drawn into Athena's sacred shade, following a guide that hunts not just mice, but the city's secrets. The grove's alive, and the owl's its silent sentinel guarding a night that hums with divine purpose. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered keeper leads next. You're slipping out of Athena's sacred grove, the whisper of olive leaves fading as Athens' restless pulse pulls you back into its streets. The air's thick with the scent of dust and roasted chickpeas, and the city's heartbeat thrums under your sandals. Soft laughter, a clinking cup, the distant wail of a child. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from tree to rooftop, its eyes like twin lanterns slicing through the night. You're not just wandering, now you're diving into the scholarly debates about the owl's true role, pondering what Athena's feathered spy really means to this city. And the owl's gaze feels like it's daring you to pick a side. You're on a quiet street, lined with mud brick houses, their shutters closed, tight against the dark. The owl perches on a cracked column, its head swiveling to track a lone figure lighting a torch. The flame sputters, casting shadows that dance like arguments, and you feel the weight of questions that have haunted Athens for centuries. Is the owl just a bird, a symbol, or something more? A divine agent weaving Athena's will through the night. You're starting to see it as all three, its silent wings carrying more than just feathers. Historically, Athena's owl was a cultural cornerstone in 5th century BCE Athens, stamped on coins and carved into temples as a badge of the city's wisdom and power. Scholars of the time, like those scribbling in the agora, saw it as a stand-in for Athena's clarity, her ability to see through chaos. But not everyone agreed on its role. Some called it a divine messenger, others a lucky charm, and a few hard-nosed types insisted it was just a bird that liked Athens' mice. You imagine them arguing late into the night, much like you're wandering now, trying to pin down the owl's purpose under its unblinking stare. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians swore the owl's hoots could settle disputes like a feathered judge. If it called out during an argument the louder side was deemed wrong, Athena's way of saying, "Pipe down and think." No proof, but tavern tales loved it with debaters, pausing mid-shout to listen for a hoot. Historians still argue whether the owl's role was purely symbolic, or if it carried Athena's actual authority. Was it a divine enforcer guiding Athens' choices, or just a bird caught in the city's myth-making? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes lock on you, it feels like it's got an opinion it's not sharing. You keep moving the street, narrowing the air heavy with the scent of wax and time. The owl glides to a new perch, a low wall, its talons clicking softly. You pass a small agora corner, where two men argue over a land, deal their voices sharp. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's judging their logic or just eyeing a stray olive on the ground. You're starting to see Athens as a city of endless debates about gods, laws, even owls, and the owl's the one constant watching it all, with a gaze that cuts through the noise. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst scholar? It hoots citations nobody can find. You grin, but the owl's too busy scanning the shadows to care. You're near a small shrine now, its altar piled with olives, and a clay owl figurine. Someone's been praying, maybe for clarity in a debate, or just to win an argument with their neighbor. The owl's gaze feels like Athena's answer, cool, steady, urging you to think harder. You're tempted to linger, but its stare keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Keep up, mortal, the truth's out there." You pause by a fountain, its water gurgling like a soft debate of its own. The owl lands on a nearby post, its eyes tracking a group of youths whispering about politics. Their voices rise, tossing around words like democracy and tyranny, and you wonder if the owl's filing that for Athena. Scholars have long debated whether the owl was a passive symbol or an active player in Athens' story. You dip your fingers in the fountain, the cold grounding you, and think about those arguments. Some saying the owl inspired wisdom, others calling it a glorified mascot. The owl's stare feels like a challenge to pick a side. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl in a debate? A feathered know-it-all. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's watching a man slip a coin to another, their eyes darting like they're dodging more than just taxes. Athens is a city of ideas, but ideas spark fights, and the owl's here to make sure they don't burn the place down. You're starting to feel like you're in a debate yourself, caught between seeing the owl as a myth or a divine spy. You keep walking the street, sloping toward the city's heart, the air cooler and tinged with sea salt. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken statue, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass a small library, its scrolls tucked away for the night, and imagine scholars inside still arguing about the owl's role. Was it Athena's eyes, her voice, or just a bird that got lucky. The owl's wings are silent, but its presence is loud, a reminder that Athens' wisdom is a puzzle, and it's the one piece that fits every angle. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered scholar leads next. You're trudging along Athens' shadowed edges. Now the city's pulse, a steady throb beneath your sandals, mixing with the scent of dust and sea salt, carried on the night breeze. The streets are quieter here, where torchlight barely reaches, and you hear a distant owl hoot, sharp against the murmur of a sleeping city. The owl's still with you, a silent shadow gliding from rooftop to city wall, its eyes like twin embers cutting through the dark. You're not just wandering anymore, you're walking the long walls, the massive fortifications stretching toward the sea, and Athena's owl is patrolling its wings, a quiet promise that Athens stays safe. You're on a narrow path beside the towering stone walls, their rough surface cool under your hand. The long walls linking Athens to its port at Piraeus were the city's lifeline in the 5th century BCE, protecting trade and troops during wars like the Peloponnesian. Historically, these walls were a marvel, a symbol of Athens' defiance against enemies like Sparta. You imagine hoplites marching here, their shields glinting, while the owl soars above Athena's scout, ensuring no enemy sneaks through the night. Its gaze sweeps the horizon, and you feel it watching you, too, like it's checking if you're friend or foe. The owl perches on a jutting stone, its talons scraping softly, and you pause, catching your breath. The air's heavy with pine and the faint tang of pitch from nearby torches. You're starting to see the owl as more than a symbol. It's a guardian patrolling these walls to keep Athens' heart secure. You picture Athena leaning on her spear, nodding as her owl reports. All clear, except that guy who tripped over his own sandals. The city's safety depends on vigilance, and the owl's eyes miss nothing from a Spartan scout to a clumsy wanderer like you. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls warned of sieges, hooting frantically before an attack. Soldiers would listen for their calls, trusting Athena's bird to spot danger before human sentries did. No proof, but the story stuck, whispered among guards on late-night shifts. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in defense was symbolic, or if Athenians genuinely saw it as a divine lookout. Was it just a bird drawn to the wall's mice, or Athena's early warning system? You're not sure, but as the owl's stare pins you, it feels like it could spot a threat from across the Saronic Gulf. You keep moving the path, hugging the wall's base, the stones looming like silent giants. The owl glides to a new perch, a watchtower's edge, its wings a whisper in the night. You notice a small shrine nearby, tucked into a crevice, with a clay owl and a handful of olives. Someone's been praying, maybe a soldier hoping for Athena's protection. The owl's watching a distant flicker, maybe a ship's lantern at Piraeus, and you wonder if it's tracking a late-night delivery or something shadier. Athens' walls are its shield, and the owl's making sure no cracks form. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the best sentry? It never blinks on duty. You grin, but the owl's too busy scanning the horizon to care. You hear a faint clatter, maybe a guard dropping his spear, and the owl's head swivels, its eyes locking on the sound. You're tempted to climb the wall for a better view, but its stare keeps you grounded, like it's saying, "Stay low, mortal. This is my patrol." The night's deep, the stars sharp, and you feel the city's pulse in the quiet, steady rhythm of the owl's watch. You pause by a gate, its iron hinges rusted but sturdy. The owl lands on a nearby post, its gaze sweeping the path behind you. You notice a group of men whispering nearby, their cloaks pulled tight. Smugglers, spies. You can't tell, but the owl's watching its eyes like a warning. Athens' walls are more than stone. They're the city's backbone, and the owl's here to keep them standing. You run your hand along the gate to the metal cold, and think about Athena's strength, her wisdom woven into every block, her owl ensuring it holds. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl on guard duty? A feathered fortress. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a stray dog sniff along the wall, probably chasing a scent. You're starting to see Athens as a fortress, not just of stone, but of ideas, and the owl's the one guarding both. The air's cooler, now tinged with sea salt, and you catch a whiff of smoke from a distant hearth. The owl's gaze feels like a shield protecting Athens' edges while you wander its heart. You keep walking the path, sloping toward the sea, the wall's shadow stretching long. The owl glides to a new perch, a jagged stone, and you feel its eyes like a weight. You pass another shrine, this one, with a tiny owl carving and a wilted flower. Someone's been praying, maybe for safe passage, or a victory at sea. The owl's wings are silent, but its presence is loud, a reminder that Athena's watching her patrol, stretching from the Acropolis to the waves. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered sentinel leads next. You're winding through Athens' quiet edges, the city's pulse, a soft hum beneath your sandals, blending with the scent of myrtle and sea salt carried on the night breeze. The streets are hushed now, the flicker of torches replaced by moonlight pooling on cobblestones. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from wall to olive tree, its eyes like twin flames, cutting through the dark. You're not just wandering anymore. You're joining a moonlit ritual for Athena, where her owl looms as a symbol of wisdom, its silent presence tying the city's prayers to the goddess herself. You step into a small courtyard, where a group of women in white robes gather around a stone altar, their voices low and rhythmic, chanting to Athena. Torches cast wavering light, painting shadows that dance like spirits. The owl perches on a nearby roof, its gaze steady, and you feel a prickle like you've stumbled into something sacred. The altar's piled with olives, laurel leaves, and a clay owl figurine, its carved eyes mirroring the real one above. You're in Athena's orbit now, and her owl's making sure this ritual hits the mark. Historically, Athena's worship was central to Athens in the 5th century BCE, with rituals often held at night to honor her as the city's protector and wisdom source. These ceremonies, led by priestesses, were intimate but powerful, weaving Athens' hopes into offerings of oil grain and song. The owl, her sacred emblem, was more than decor. It was a sign of her presence, its hoots a whisper of divine approval. You imagine the priestesses glancing up, hoping for a glimpse of those wings, knowing Athena's listening through her feathered proxy. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed an owl circling a ritual meant Athena was pleased, but if it hooted twice, you'd better rethink your offering. No evidence, just tavern talk, but folks would double their olive piles just in case. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in these rites was symbolic, or if devotees saw it as Athena's literal eyes. Was it a divine signal, or just a bird drawn to the altar's scraps? You're not sure, But as the owl's stare pins you, it feels like it's judging the chant's rhythm. You edge closer, the ground soft with scattered petals, and catch the scent of burning incense, sharp and sweet. The priestesses' voices rise, praising Athena's wisdom, their hands raised to the moon. The owl shifts its talons, clicking, and you swear it's nodding along like it's confirming their prayers are on point. You're tempted to join, but its gaze keeps you still, like it's saying, "You're a guest here, mortal. Don't mess it up." The courtyard's alive with devotion, and the owl's the anchor tying these mortal hopes to Athena's divine ear. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst at rituals? It keeps hooting off key. You grin, but the owl's too busy watching a priestess place a fresh olive branch on the altar. The crowd murmurs, and you catch a woman whispering about a vision she had an owl leading her to truth. You're starting to see the ritual as Athens' heartbeat, a moment where the city pauses to align with Athena's wisdom and the owl's making sure it stays true. You pause by a low wall, the stone cool against your hand, and watch the priestesses circle the altar, their robes swishing softly. The owl glides to a new perch, a gnarled tree, its eyes tracking every move. You notice a young girl at the edge, clutching a tiny owl amulet, her eyes wide with awe. Maybe she's praying for courage, or maybe just to pass her weaving lesson. The owl's gaze feels like Athena's answer, steady, clear, a promise that wisdom's never far. You're caught in the ritual's spell, feeling Athens' soul bared under the moon. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at a moonlit rite? Athena's hype bird. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's watching a stray cat slink by, probably eyeing the altar's offerings. The ritual's winding down, the chants softening, and you feel the city's pulse slow, like it's syncing with Athena's calm. The owl's here to make sure this moment holds, keeping Athens' devotion from fraying in the night. You keep moving, slipping out of the courtyard, the ritual's glow fading behind you. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked column, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass a small shrine, its altar strewn with wilted flowers and a clay owl. Someone's been praying, maybe for guidance, or just a quiet night, and you wonder if the owl carried their words to Athena. The city's alive, its faith, woven into every chant, and the owl's the thread tying Athens to its goddess. You take a deep breath, the air cool and sharp, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered guide leads next. You're weaving through Athens' shadowed streets, the city's pulse, a faint throb beneath your sandals, mingling with the scent of sea salt and smoldering torches. The night's deep, now the air cool and heavy with the hum of a city that never quite sleeps. Distant laughter, a creaking cart, the soft wail of a flute. The owl's still with you, a silent shadow gliding from rooftop to gnarled tree, its eyes like twin embers slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering anymore. You're caught in the tension of a sudden eerie hoot, the owl's warning cry ringing out, signaling danger lurking in Athens' underbelly. You're in a narrow alley, the walls closing in their mud brick surfaces, rough under your fingertips. The owl perches on a jutting beam, its head swiveling, and then it lets out a sharp, chilling call that cuts through the night like a blade. Your heart skips. You've heard owls before, but this feels different, urgent like Athena's, shouting through her feathered proxy. The alley's quiet, too quiet, and you notice shadows shifting at its far end, where cloaked figures whisper in hushed tones. The owl's eyes lock on them, and you feel a prickle like you've stumbled onto something Athens isn't meant to see. Historically, Athens in the 5th century BCE was no stranger to danger even within its walls. Political plots, rival factions, and petty thieves thrived in the dark, testing the city's strength. Athena's owl, a symbol of vigilance, was said to warn of trouble, its hoots a signal to priests or guards that something was off. You imagine a watchman pausing mid-patrol hearing that cry and grabbing his spear, trusting Athena's bird to spot what he missed. The owl's hoot echoes again, and you're half convinced it's calling out those shadowy figures, alerting the city to their schemes. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed an owl's cry could stop a crime in its tracks, like Athena herself was blowing the whistle. A thief might freeze mid-heist, fearing the goddess's wrath, or so the tavern tales went. No proof, but folks swore a timely hoot saved their coin purse more than once. Historians still argue whether the owl's warnings were just superstition or part of Athena's cult, a divine alarm system. Was it a bird reacting to noise or Athena's voice in the night? You're not sure, but as the owl hoots again, you feel like running for cover. You keep moving the alley, tightening the air thick with dust and the faint tang of sour wine. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked windowsill, its talons scraping softly. You glimpse those figures again, 3 men, their cloaks pulled tight, exchanging a small sack that clinks faintly. Smugglers, traitors. You can't tell, but the owl's watching its eyes like a spotlight. You're starting to see it as Athena's enforcer, sounding the alarm when the city's safety wobbles. Your pulse quickens, and you wonder if the owl's cry is for you too, warning you to steer clear. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst at hide-and-seek? Its hoots give away every plot. You grin, but the owl's too busy staring down the alley to care. You hear a scuffle, someone's dropped something, and a curse cuts through the dark. The owl hoots again, sharper this time, and the figures scatter, melting into the shadows. You're tempted to follow, but its gaze pins you, like it's saying, "Stay out of it. Mortal, this is my beat." The night's tense, the stars sharp, and you feel Athens' pulse spike with the owl's warning. You pause by a crumbling wall, the stone cool against your hand, and catch your breath. The owl's still watching those shadows now gone, and you wonder what it saw: stolen goods, a whispered betrayal, or just a late-night deal gone sour. You notice a small shrine nearby, tucked into a corner, with a clay owl and a handful of olives. Someone's been praying maybe for protection from whatever the owl's warning about. Its cry lingers in your ears, a reminder that Athens' safety isn't guaranteed, and the owl's here to keep the scales tipped toward order. Here's another joke to ease the tension. What do you call an owl sounding the alarm? Athena's siren. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a new perch, a rooftop's edge, its eyes scanning the alley's end. You hear footsteps now, heavy and deliberate, maybe a guard drawn by the hoot. The owl's done its job alerting someone to trouble, and you're starting to see Athens as a city on edge, its safety woven into the owl's vigilance. You keep moving the alley, opening into a wider street, the air cooler and tinged with sea salt. The owl's gaze follows you, a weight that feels both protective and unnerving. You pass a tavern, its door ajar, spilling light, and the sound of dice rolling. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's clocking more than just thieves, maybe a plot brewing over wine. Athens is a city of light and shadow, and the owl's cry is its warning bell, keeping the dark from swallowing the light. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered alarm leads next. You're slipping through Athens' quiet veins, the city's pulse, a soft throb under your sandals, blending with the scent of pine and sea salt drifting on the night breeze. The streets are hushed, the flicker of torches replaced by moonlight spilling over cobblestones. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to gnarled tree, its eyes like twin stars slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering now. You're gazing up at the constellations, their patterns weaving stories in the sky, and the owl's flight seems to trace them, linking Athens' night to the gods above. You pause in a small plaza, the ground cool and gritty, and tilt your head back to the heavens. The stars are sharp, a glittering map of myths. Orion's belt, the Pleiades cluster, Athena's own shield glimmering somewhere up there. The owl perches on a low wall, its gaze sweeping the sky, and you feel a prickle like it's reading the same celestial script. Its wings cut silent arcs, as if it's dancing with the constellations Athena's guide, tying the city's fate to the stars. You're starting to see the owl as more than a sentinel. It's a cosmic navigator steering Athens through the night. Historically, the Greeks in the 5th century BCE saw the stars as divine, their movements a language of the gods. Astronomers like Anaxagoras studied them, linking celestial patterns to earthly events, while poets wove them into tales of heroes and deities. Athena, goddess of wisdom, was tied to the heavens, her owl with its night vision, a perfect companion for a goddess who sees beyond the mortal veil. You imagine her on Olympus, pointing at the stars, telling her owl, "Keep Athens," aligned with that constellation, or we're in for a rough night. Its gaze locks on you, and you wonder if it's charting your path, too. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls could predict celestial events, like eclipses, their hoots a warning of cosmic shifts. A flurry of calls before a lunar blackout, and folks would rush to temples, praying to Athena for clarity. No proof, just tavern tales, but it made sense in a city where gods ruled the sky. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in stargazing was symbolic, or if devotees saw it as Athena's cosmic scout. Was it just a bird drawn to the night, or a divine astrologer? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes glint, it feels like it's reading the stars' fine print. You keep moving the plaza, opening to a wider street, the air heavy with dust and the faint tang of olive oil. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken statue, its talons clicking softly. You notice a group of youths nearby pointing at the sky, arguing over which star is Athena's. Their voices rise, and the owl's gaze shifts, like it's amused by their debate. You're starting to see Athens as a city tethered to the heavens, its wisdom drawn from the stars, and the owl's the one keeping the connection tight. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the best astronomer? It never needs a telescope. You grin, but the owl's too busy tracing the sky to care. You hear a soft chant, a priestess nearby offering prayers to the stars, her voice weaving through the night. The owl's watching its head swiveling, and you wonder if it's carrying her words to Athena, tying her prayers to a constellation. You're tempted to join, but its stare keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Keep up, mortal, the stars don't wait." You pause by a fountain, its water gurgling like a celestial hum. The owl lands on a nearby post, its eyes reflecting a star's glint. You dip your fingers in the cold, grounding you, and think about Athena's wisdom, vast, eternal, like the sky itself. The owl's her link to the cosmos, its flights mirroring the stars' paths, guiding Athens through the night's mysteries. You notice a small shrine nearby, piled with olives, and a clay owl, its carved eyes mimicking the real one above. Someone's been praying maybe for a glimpse of divine truth in the stars. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl under the stars? Athena's stargazer. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a man sketch constellations on a wax tablet, his stylus scratching softly. You wonder if he's mapping Athena's shield or just doodling. The stars are Athens' guide, and the owl's making sure the city doesn't lose its way, its wings tracing paths mortals can only guess at. You keep walking the street sloping toward the city's edge, the air cooler and tinged with sea salt. The owl glides to a new perch, a jagged rock, and you feel its gaze like a weight. You pass a small temple, its doors ajar, revealing a priest sweeping stardust from the floor. He glances up, maybe sensing the owl, and you wonder if he's praying for a celestial sign. The owl's wings are silent, but its presence is loud, a reminder that Athena's wisdom stretches to the heavens, and her owl's the one tying Athens to the stars. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered navigator leads next. You're weaving through Athens' shadowed underbelly, the city's pulse, a restless throb beneath your sandals, mingling with the scent of damp earth and sour wine. The streets are tight here, alleys twisting like secrets, and the night's hum is sharper, whispers, a muffled curse, the scuffle of hurried feet. The owl's still with you, a silent shadow gliding from rooftop to broken cart, its eyes like twin flames slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering now. You're dodging shady figures in Athens' nightlife, where thieves prowl and the owl watches Athena's sentinel keeping tabs on the city's darker side. You're in a grimy corner of the agora, where torchlight barely reaches, casting long shadows that seem to move on their own. The owl perches on a sagging awning, its gaze sweeping the alley like a blade. You spot a cloaked figure slipping a pouch to another, their eyes darting, and hear the faint clink of coins. Thieves, smugglers, or just late-night hustlers, you can't tell. But the owl's stare feels like Athena's judgment pinning them in place. You're starting to feel the weight of its watch, like you're caught in a game where the owl's the only one who knows the rules. Historically, Athens in the 5th century BCE wasn't all philosophy and marble temples. Its nights were a playground for rogues. The agora, bustling by day, turned shadowy after dark, a hub for black market deals and petty crime. Athena's owl, stamped on the city's coins, was a reminder that her wisdom didn't sleep even when thieves thought they had the run of the place. You imagine her on Olympus, smirking as her owl clocks a pickpocket, its hoot a warning that Athens' justice doesn't blink. The owl's eyes lock on you, and you wonder if it's sizing up your own intentions. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed an owl's sudden flight could scare off a thief like Athena herself was swooping in. A flutter of wings mid-heist, and crooks would scatter, fearing divine payback. No proof, just tavern gossip, but it kept the night markets on edge. Historians still argue whether the owl's role in policing was symbolic, or if Athenians saw it as Athena's actual enforcer. Was it just a bird spooked by noise, or a divine bouncer? You're not sure, but as the owl's stare pins you, it feels like it could bust you for jaywalking. You keep moving the alley, narrowing the air thick with the stench of spilled wine and rotting fruit. The owl glides to a new perch, a broken crate, its talons scraping softly. You spot another figure, a kid maybe, slipping through a doorway with a sack slung over his shoulder. Stolen goods. You don't know, but the owl's watching its head swiveling like it's filing a report. You're starting to see Athens' underbelly as a chessboard, with the owl moving pieces to keep the game from tipping into chaos. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst thief? It can't steal without hooting a confession. You grin, but the owl's too busy eyeing a man loitering by a stall, his hand hovering near a merchant's coin purse. You hear a soft scuffle. The man bolts as the owl hoots sharp and sudden. You're tempted to chase him, but its gaze keeps you rooted, like it's saying, "Leave it, mortal. I've got this." The night's tense, the stars sharp, and you feel Athens' pulse race as the owl patrols its darker corners. You pause by a crumbling wall, the stone cold against your hand, and catch your breath. The owl's still watching the alley now empty, and you wonder what it saw: a heist gone wrong, a deal soured, or just a nervous kid running home. You notice a small shrine nearby, tucked into a corner, with a clay owl and a scattering of barley grains. Someone's been praying, maybe for protection from the very thieves the owl's chasing. Its gaze feels like a shield guarding Athens' underbelly from unraveling. Here's another joke to ease the tension. What do you call an owl catching crooks? Athena's night cop. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a new perch, a rooftop's edge, its eyes scanning a group of men whispering by a tavern. Their voices are low, their gestures quick, and you wonder if they're plotting something the owl's already onto. Athens' nights are a tangle of schemes, and the owl's the one untangling them, keeping the city's heart from skipping a beat. You keep moving the alley, opening to a wider street, the air cooler and tinged with sea salt. The owl's gaze follows you, a weight that's both reassuring and unnerving. You pass a tavern, its door cracked, spilling light and the sound of dice rolling. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's clocking more than just thieves, maybe a traitor selling secrets over wine. Athens is a city of light and shadow, and the owl's the line between them, its eyes ensuring the dark doesn't swallow the city whole. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered watchdog leads next. You're slinking through Athens' shadowed fringes, the city's pulse, a restless throb beneath your sandals, mingling with the scent of sea salt and smoldering pine. The alleys are tight, their mud brick walls closing in, and the night's hum is sharp whispers, a muffled laugh, the scuff of boots in the dark. The owl's still with you, a silent shadow gliding from rooftop to broken cart, its eyes like twin embers cutting through the gloom. You're not just wandering, now you're caught in the old rivalry between Athena and Poseidon, a divine tug of war that sets the owl's nighttime vigilance alight, its wings a quiet rebuke to the sea god's schemes. You're near the harbor now, where the air's thick with brine and the creak of ships' ropes. The owl perches on a weathered post, its gaze sweeping the docks, where lanterns bob like fireflies. You feel its stare like Athena's own, watching for any hint of Poseidon's meddling. The rivalry's ancient. Remember that olive tree versus salty spring contest. Athena won Athens, but Poseidon's not one to let it go. You imagine him stirring waves or whispering trouble to sailors, while the owl patrols, ensuring Athena's city stays hers. Its eyes lock on you, and you wonder if it's checking if you're Team Athena or not. Historically, the contest between Athena and Poseidon was a defining myth for Athens in the 5th century BCE, etched into its culture like a city charter. Athena's olive tree symbolized prosperity, while Poseidon's spring was a dud, but his influence lingered in Athens' maritime life. The owl stamped on coins was Athena's flex, her way of saying, "This city's mine, trident boy." You picture her on Olympus, smirking as her owl clocks a sailor praying to Poseidon for safe passage. The owl's here to keep Athens' loyalty, its silent flight's a counter to Poseidon's watery tantrums. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some dock workers swore Poseidon sent crabs to scuttle under Athena's owls, like a petty divine prank. Picture a crab snapping at an owl's talons, only to get outwitted by a quick swoop. No proof, just harbor gossip, but it kept sailors chuckling. Historians still argue whether the owl's vigilance was a direct jab at Poseidon or just Athena's blanket protection. Was it her way of patrolling the seas or a symbolic middle finger to her rival? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes bore into you, it feels like it's got Poseidon's number. You keep moving the path, hugging the harbor's edge, the ground slick with seaweed and salt. The owl glides to a new perch, a ship's mast, its talons gripping the wood. You spot a group of sailors unloading crates under torchlight, their voices low and tense, smuggling maybe, or just dodging taxes. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's reporting to Athena like these guys are cutting corners again. You're starting to see Athens as a battleground, not just for mortals, but for gods with the owl, as Athena's knight keeping Poseidon's influence at bay. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl always one-upping Poseidon? It's got better wings than his waves. You grin, but the owl's too busy eyeing a sailor slipping a coin to a guard to care. You hear a splash. Someone's dropped something in the water, and the owl's head swivels its gaze sharp. You're tempted to peek, but its stare keeps you moving like it's saying, "Stay clear, mortal. This is my watch." The night's tense, the stars sharp, and you feel Athens' pulse quicken as the owl guards its shores. You pause by a weathered dock, the wood creaking under your feet, and catch your breath. The owl's still watching the sailors now scattering as a patrol approaches. You notice a small shrine nearby, tucked against a piling with a clay owl and a scattering of shells. Someone's praying to both gods, hedging their bets. The owl's gaze feels like Athena's claim, a reminder that her wisdom trumps Poseidon's tides. You run your hand along the dock, the salt stinging your skin, and think about that divine rivalry, its echoes rippling through Athens' nights. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl trolling Poseidon, a feathered wave breaker? Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a new perch, a crate stack, its eyes locked on a ship slipping out to sea. You wonder if it's carrying contraband, or just late-night cargo, but the owl knows. Athens harbor is its lifeline, and the owl's here to make sure Poseidon doesn't pull a fast one, keeping the city's heart firmly in Athena's hands. You keep walking the path, curving away from the docks, the air cooler and tinged with pine. The owl's gaze follows you, a weight that's both protective and piercing. You pass a tavern, its door ajar, spilling light, and the sound of sailors' songs, half of them praising Poseidon, half cursing him. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's clocking their loyalty, ready to snitch to Athena. The city's a tug of war between land and sea, and the owl's the anchor, ensuring Athena's wisdom holds the line. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered rival leads next. You're climbing back toward the heart of Athens, the harbor's briny tang fading as the city's pulse thrums under your sandals, a mix of distant laughter and the soft clink of a loom. The air's thick with olive oil and dust, and the night's deep moonlight spilling over the Acropolis like liquid silver. The owl still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to jagged rock, its eyes like twin embers slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering, now you're scaling the Acropolis under moonlight, where Athena's owl reveals hidden truths, its silent wings peeling back the city's mysteries. You're on a rocky path, the Acropolis looming above its marble temples, glowing faintly like they're whispering secrets to the stars. The owl perches on a broken column, its gaze sweeping the slope, and you feel a prickle like you're stepping into Athena's inner sanctum. The air's cooler here, tinged with myrtle, and you hear a faint chant from a nearby shrine. Priests or devotees, maybe praying for wisdom. The owl's eyes lock on you, and you're half convinced it's about to spill a divine truth, like why Athena picked this bird, or what's really up with those shady harbor deals. Historically, the Acropolis was Athens' spiritual and cultural core in the 5th century BCE, a fortress of temples where Athena reigned supreme. At night, it transformed into a place of mystery, where priests and poets sought her guidance under the stars. The owl, her sacred symbol, was said to haunt these heights, its hoots a sign of divine insight. You imagine it circling the Parthenon Athena, whispering, "Show them the truth, but make it cryptic. They're mortals after all." Its gaze feels like a key unlocking secrets hidden in the Acropolis's stones. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls on the Acropolis could reveal omens, their flights tracing paths to hidden knowledge. A swoop over a temple meant Athena was speaking maybe about a coming war or a poet's next masterpiece. No proof, just moonlit gossip, but folks swore by it, leaving owl-shaped offerings for clarity. Historians still argue whether the owl's role here was symbolic or a literal conduit to Athena's mind. Was it just a bird drawn to the heights, or a divine oracle? You're not sure, but as the owl's stare pins you, it feels like it's got secrets. It's itching to share. You keep climbing the path, steep gravel crunching under your sandals. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked frieze, its talons scraping softly. You pass a small altar piled with olives, and a clay owl, its carved eyes mimicking the real one above. Someone's been praying maybe for a glimpse of truth, or just to ace a court case. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's delivering Athena's answers. Its silent wings carrying insights mortals can barely grasp. You're starting to see the Acropolis as a puzzle, and the owl's the piece that makes it click. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the worst at keeping secrets? It hoots the truth to the moon. You grin, but the owl's too busy scanning the shadows to care. You hear a rustle, maybe a priest, maybe a stray cat, and the owl's head swivels, its eyes locking on the sound. You're tempted to peek, but its stare keeps you moving, like it's saying, "Keep up, mortal truths, not for the nosy." The night's deep, the stars sharp, and you feel Athens pulse in the quiet, sacred hum of the Acropolis. You pause by a temple's edge, the marble cool under your hand, and catch your breath. The owl's still watching now, perched on a pediment, its gaze sweeping the city below. You spot a flicker in the distance, a torch maybe, or a thief dodging guards. The owl sees it too, and you wonder if it's unraveling a mystery, like who's behind that harbor scam from earlier. The Acropolis is Athens' truth, its heart laid bare, and the owl's here to make sure its secrets don't stay buried too long. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl spilling secrets? Athena's whistleblower. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's watching a lone figure slip past a shrine, their cloak pulled tight. You wonder if they're seeking wisdom or hiding from it, but the owl knows. Its gaze feels like a lantern lighting up Athens' hidden corners, from shady deals to whispered prayers. You're starting to see the Acropolis as a beacon, and the owl's the flame guiding the city through its mysteries. You keep moving the path, leveling as you near the Parthenon's shadow. The owl glides to a new perch, a jagged stone, and you feel its eyes like a weight. You pass another altar, this one strewn with wilted flowers and a tiny owl carving. Someone's been praying, maybe for a revelation, or just a quiet night, and you wonder if the owl's carrying their words to Athena. The Acropolis is alive, its truths woven into every stone, and the owl's the thread tying Athens to its goddess. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered truth-teller leads next. You're descending from the Acropolis' moonlit heights, the city's pulse, a steady hum beneath your sandals, blending with the scent of olive oil and sea salt, carried on the night breeze. Athens sprawls below its rooftops, glinting like scattered coins, and the air's thick with the hum of a city that never fully sleeps. Soft laughter, a distant lyre, the creak of a cart. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from column to rooftop, its eyes like twin flames, slicing through the dark. You're not just wandering. Now, you're reflecting on the owl's lasting mark on Athens, how its silent watch shaped a city's soul, and its gaze feels like a mirror, showing you the threads of Athena's legacy. You're back in the agora, quieter now, its stalls draped in cloth and bathed in moonlight. The owl perches on a weathered post, its head swiveling to track a lone merchant, counting coins under a torch. You feel it stare like it's weighing Athens' past against its present, and you're caught in the same thought. The owl's more than a bird. It's a symbol woven into the city's bones, a reminder of Athena's wisdom that kept Athens sharp through wars, debates, and dreams. You're starting to see how it's watched defined a culture, and you're wondering what it sees in you. Historically, Athena's owl was a cornerstone of Athenian identity in the 5th century BCE, stamped on silver tetradrachms that spread the city's fame across the Mediterranean. These coins weren't just currency. They were propaganda, shouting Athens' wisdom and power to every trader who held one. The owl's image, with its piercing eyes, was Athena's brand, a promise that her city thrived on brains, not just bronze. You imagine merchants in distant ports, flipping those coins, feeling Athena's gaze, and you wonder if the owl overhead is still carrying that legacy watching to ensure Athens' story endures. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed owls blessed their homes with wisdom, so they'd carve tiny owl figures into door frames or hang feathers for luck. A hoot near your house meant Athena was smiling on you, or so the neighbors claimed over wine. No proof, just folk tales, but it shows how deeply the owl was woven into daily life. Historians still argue whether the owl's legacy was purely symbolic, or if it shaped Athens' psyche, making wisdom a civic obsession. Was it just a bird that got famous, or Athena's lasting gift? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes lock on you, it feels like it's carrying centuries of meaning. You keep moving the agora's edge, giving way to a narrow street, the air heavy with dust and the faint tang of roasted figs. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked statue of Athena, its spear chipped but proud. You pass a small shrine piled with olives and a clay owl, its carved eyes mimicking the real one above. Someone's been praying maybe for clarity, or just to honor the city's roots, and you wonder if the owl's presence makes their words louder. You're starting to see Athens as a tapestry with the owl's watch stitching its past to its present. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl the best historian? It's got a hoot for every century. You grin, but the owl's too busy eyeing a group of youths, whispering by a stall to care. Their voices are low, debating Athens' glory days, and you catch snippets about democracy and warships. The owl's gaze feels like a nod to their words, like it's saying, "You're not wrong," but I saw it all firsthand. Athens' legacy is alive in these streets, and the owl's the thread weaving its story through every debate and dream. You pause by a fountain, its water gurgling softly, catching moonlight like liquid silver. The owl lands on a nearby post, its eyes sweeping the agora. You dip your fingers in the cold, grounding you, and think about the owl's mark on coins, on minds, on the city itself. It's not just Athena's spy, it's her legacy, a feathered reminder that wisdom built Athens and keeps it standing. You notice a man nearby sketching an owl on a wax tablet, maybe a merchant dreaming of coin-worthy designs. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's approving his art or just eyeing his stylus. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl that's Athens' mascot? A feathered legend. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking, right? The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a new perch, a stack of crates, its eyes locked on a woman offering a prayer at the shrine. Her voice is soft, thanking Athena for the city's strength, and you feel the owl's gaze like a bridge, linking her words to Athens' past. The city's culture is a living thing, and the owl's the pulse, keeping its wisdom alive through the night. You keep walking the streets, sloping toward the city's heart, the air cooler and tinged with sea salt. The owl's gaze follows you a weight that's both grounding and vast. You pass a tavern, its door ajar, spilling light, and the sound of a bard singing about Athens' victories. The owl's watching, and you wonder if it's memorizing the song, ready to carry it to Athena. The city's legacy is etched in its stones, its stories, its people, and the owl's the one ensuring it doesn't fade. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for wherever this feathered historian leads next. You're drifting through Athens' quiet veins, the city's pulse softening beneath your sandals as dawn's first whispers nudge the horizon. The air's cool, laced with sea salt, and the fading scent of torch smoke, and the night's hum is gentler now. A distant laugh, a creaking shudder, the soft lap of waves from the harbor. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to olive tree, its eyes like twin embers flickering in the waning dark. You're not just wandering anymore. You're watching the owl retreat as dawn nears its duty, done leaving Athens to greet the light under Athena's lingering gaze. You're on a narrow street near the city's edge, where houses huddle close, their whitewashed walls pale under the fading stars. The owl perches on a low fence, its head swiveling to scan the quiet alleys, and you feel its stare softer now, like it's winding down its watch. The city's slowing its nighttime buzz, giving way to a sleepy hush, and the owl's wings seem to carry the last of the night's secrets. You're starting to see it as Athena's faithful sentinel, ready to rest as the sun takes over its job, complete until dusk returns. Historically, Athens in the 5th century BCE relied on its nocturnal rhythms as much as its daytime hustle. The night was for rituals, debates, and shady deals, all under Athena's watchful eye, embodied by her owl. As dawn approached, the city's guardians, human and divine, handed over their posts, trusting the light to keep order. The owl, a symbol of Athena's vigilance, was said to retreat to groves or rooftops at sunrise, its hoots fading as the city stirred. You imagine it gliding back to a sacred olive tree, Athena nodding. "Good work, now catch a nap." Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed an owl's final hoot before dawn sealed the night's events, like a divine signature on Athens' ledger. A clear call meant Athena was pleased. A shaky one, and you'd better pray harder tomorrow. No proof, just tavern tales, but folks would listen for that last note, hoping for a clean slate. Historians still argue whether the owl's dawn retreat was symbolic or part of Athena's cult, a signal her watch was complete. Was it just a bird heading to roost, or a divine handoff? You're not sure, but as the owl's eyes soften, it feels like it's signing off. You keep moving, the street sloping gently, the air heavy with dew and the faint tang of rosemary. The owl glides to a new perch, a cracked column, its talons scraping softly. You pass a small shrine piled with olives, and a clay owl, its carved eyes dim in the pre-dawn light. Someone's been praying, maybe for a safe day, or thanks for a night well guarded, and you wonder if the owl's hoot carried their words to Athena. You're starting to see the dawn as a shift. Change, the owl handing Athens back to the sun, its wings folding after a long night's work. Let's toss in a joke. Why is Athena's owl bad at morning shifts? It's too busy hooting all night. You grin, but the owl's too focused on the horizon to care. You hear a faint rustle, a street vendor setting up early his cart, creaking under baskets of bread. The owl's watching its gaze, lingering like it's making one last sweep before clocking out. You're tempted to linger, but its stare nudges you forward like it's saying, "Move along, mortal, the night's done." The city's waking, and the owl's ready to rest. You pause by a fountain, its water murmuring like a fading lullaby, the surface catching the first gray light. The owl lands on a nearby post, its eyes dimming as dawn creeps closer. You dip your fingers in the cold, grounding you, and think about Athena's watch, eternal, unyielding, but trusting her owl to carry it through the dark. The owl's flight has guided you all night from markets to groves, and now it's easing back, its duty done. You notice a woman nearby, sweeping her doorstep, glancing at the owl, like she's thanking it for keeping the night safe. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at dawn? Athena's night owl off duty. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a new perch, a gnarled tree, its eyes half closed now. You hear a rooster crow, sharp and jarring, and the owl's head swivels one last time, like it's checking the city's pulse before signing off. Athens is stirring its streets, filling with early risers, and the owl's watch is complete, its wings ready to rest. You keep walking the street opening to a wider plaza, the air cooler and tinged with the scent of fresh bread. The owl's gaze follows you, a fading weight, softer now as the sky lightens. You pass a small temple, its doors still shut, a clay owl on its altar catching the dawn's first rays. The city's alive, its pulse shifting from night's secrets to day's hustle. And the owl's the bridge, carrying Athena's wisdom through the dark until the sun takes over. You take a deep breath, the air sharp in your lungs, and keep moving, ready for the owl's final flight before it rests. You're drifting through Athens' quiet fringes, the city's pulse, a gentle hum beneath your sandals, as dawn's soft glow kisses the horizon. The air's cool, woven with sea salt, and the fading scent of olive oil, and the night's murmur is nearly gone. Just a distant dog's bark, the creak of a waking cart, the whisper of leaves in the breeze. The owl's still with you, a shadow gliding from rooftop to olive branch, its eyes like twin embers softening in the pre-dawn light. You're not just wandering, now you're easing into Athena's eternal night watch, where her owl's final vigil fades into a soothing whisper, wrapping Athens in a blanket of calm. You're on a sloping path near the city's edge, where whitewashed houses glow faintly, their shutters still closed against the fading stars. The owl perches on a low wall, its gaze sweeping the streets one last time, and you feel its presence gentle now, like a friend saying goodnight. The city's settling its nighttime secrets tucked away, and the owl's wings seem to carry a final note of Athena's care. You're starting to see it as her eternal guardian, its watch stretching across centuries, guiding Athens through every shadow until dawn. Historically, Athena was Athens' heartbeat in the 5th century BCE, her wisdom the thread that stitched the city's culture, laws, and dreams. Her owl, more than a symbol, was a living link to her, its hoots a promise that Athens was never alone, even in the darkest hours. As dawn broke, the owl's role didn't end. It simply passed the torch to the day, leaving Athenians with the confidence that their goddess was always watching. You imagine her on Olympus, leaning on her spear, smiling as her owl glides home, its job done for another night. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Athenians believed an owl's silence at dawn meant Athena was content, her city safe for another day. A quiet roost was a blessing, while a restless hoot might signal unfinished business. No proof, just whispers over morning bread, but it shows how deeply the owl was woven into Athens' soul. Historians still argue whether the owl's vigil was a mythologized comfort or a ritualized truth in Athena's cult. Was it just a bird sleeping by day, or her eternal eyes? You're not sure, but as the owl's gaze softens, it feels like a gentle nod to Athens' peace. You keep moving the path, leveling the air heavy with dew and the faint scent of time. The owl glides to a new perch, a gnarled tree, its talons barely clicking now. You pass a small shrine, its altar strewn with wilted olives, and a clay owl, its carved eyes dim in the dawn's glow. Someone's been praying maybe for a safe day, or gratitude for a night well guarded, and you wonder if the owl's silence is their answer. You're starting to feel Athens as a living story, its final chapter, written in the owl's quiet flight. Let's toss in a joke. Why's Athena's owl so calm at dawn? It knows the night's in good hands. You grin, but the owl's too focused on the horizon to care. You hear a soft clatter, a vendor setting up for the day, his voice low as he hums a tune. The owl's watching, its eyes half closed, like it's savoring the city's calm before slipping away. You're tempted to linger, but its gaze nudges you forward, like it's saying, "Rest now. Mortal, the day's coming." The night's fading, and the owl's ready to roost. You pause by a fountain, its water murmuring like a lullaby, the surface catching the first pink light. The owl lands on a nearby post, its wings folding softly, and you feel its presence ease like a sigh. You dip your fingers in the cold, soothing your skin, and think about Athena's eternal watch, her wisdom, a constant, her owl, its faithful echo. The city's waking its streets, stirring with early risers, and the owl's vigil is complete, its eyes dimming as the sun claims the sky. You're caught in the moment, feeling Athens' heart settle into dawn. Here's another joke to keep you awake. What do you call an owl at sunrise? Athena's nightcap. Okay, it's not your best laugh, but you're smirking right. The owl doesn't care. It's gliding to a final perch, a cracked roof tile, its eyes nearly closed now. You hear a rooster's crow, sharp and bright, and the owl's head swivels one last time, like it's saying goodbye to the night. Athens is alive, its pulse steady, and the owl's the one who kept it so, carrying Athena's care through every shadow. You're standing still now, the city's pulse a whisper beneath your feet, the air soft with dawn's promise. The owl's wings are still its eyes, a gentle glow like embers fading in a hearth. Athens breathes easy, its streets cradling the first light, and you feel the night's weight lift, leaving only calm. The owl's watch has done its silent flights, a gift to a city that dreams under Athena's care. You imagine her smiling, her spear resting as her owl settles into a grove, its feathers blending with the leaves. The stars are gone, the sky a soft blush, and you're ready to rest too, carried by the owl's quiet promise that Athens is safe, its wisdom eternal. Let the day come, let the city wake. You've walked its shadows, and the owl's shown you its heart. Sleep now under Athena's gentle gaze.